Good morning and welcome to SkoufCodes. I'm Skoof. Sorry about the delay. My great apologies. Today we've got something very, very exciting. We've got a little bit of infrastructure as code in the home. We're going to be playing with some pretty cool technology, Matchbox, Ignition, Terraform. But before we get into that, let's just take one moment to have a quick look at what's in the bottom right here. Yes, I got my webcam back. Good old Jim. He came through. He came through with the goods. Is my hair okay? Yeah, my hair's okay. See, I have to worry about very different problems now. Is there weird stuff in the background? I actually can't see myself. You reckon it should be bigger? I think that's probably the way it should be. I want the focus to be on the code and not on my lovely face. I can make it bigger. Hang on, I've locked it. Oops, no, that's not what I wanted. I can make it a lot bigger. Whoa, there we go. But I don't know if I like that. I think I really do like just a little small guy in the bottom corner. I think what I will do is I will have a view where it fills the whole screen, probably for times like now where I'm just chatting. I can cook one up right now, but no, I'd rather not. I'd rather just leave it. We'll leave it in the corner. I'm going to get started because I'm keen to get into this. Let's put my glasses on. Here we go. I probably need to get some of those fancy anti-reflection, like anti-glare glasses. I'll do that soon. What else? Thank you to OreoSide for following. I think that happened yesterday after the stream ended, but thank you anyway. Yeah, anyway, I'll get that other view going for the next stream. What's for breakfast? Z-Man, I just had some yogurt for breakfast. Some delicious yogurt from an unnamed source. Hopefully you understand what I mean by that. So, yeah, that was good. I got a coffee. Yum, yum, yum. And I'm raring to go. Very excited. The other thing I should mention, so a few things I should mention, I guess. So yesterday I discovered that in the bottom left-hand corner, this follower thing wasn't working. That's because I'd restarted my PC and I forgot to restart that Docker container. So I will have to write a systemd unit at some point so that it starts on PC startup. So that's one thing. What else did I had something else to mention yesterday. I still haven't figured out why this is going wrong. Actually, I didn't have any time to work on it yesterday. I thought I might. So if you tuned in yesterday and you saw me kind of flounder with this connect stuff here, haven't fixed that, but that's all right. Well, I'll get around to that in my own time and I'll come back to you. So if you were watching yesterday, you would have heard me say that I'm going to pick up a server in the afternoon. I did, in fact, pick up a server in the afternoon. Oh, let me just put this phone on silent. And I did go and pick up the server, and it seemed to be in very good condition. So, you know, it wasn't a fake ad, and the dude didn't lock me in his basement, which is always nice. Always appreciate that in a little online purchase meetup. So, yeah, met up with him, got the thing. Had a lovely day, to be honest. A little sneak peek behind the curtain. Got some beer. Got some haggis pakoras, which were phenomenally delicious and interesting. But yeah, so the server is, I've secured the server. It is at my house. It is in the other room. I actually haven't had time to set it up or even plug it in or turn it on. I know it works because the dude sent me some very, very detailed, like a very detailed summary of the hardware in there that could have only come from having it powered on. He sent me screenshots as well. So it's all good. I just need to power it on over here. But what we're going to be doing today is we're actually going to I did sort of briefly consider, could I sort of have that booting up live and do it that way, but why not just do it in a virtual environment? And I think that's what a lot of other people use to experiment. So I'm actually going to be using VirtualBox. VirtualBox supports network boot. So I'm going to basically use that as a proxy for my server, and then after the stream's done, I'm probably going to play with the server and do some errands and whatever, but I'll play with the real hardware, and hopefully by the next time I stream, I'll actually have that set up and we can talk about if anything else went wrong. I'm also going to be putting out a blog post about this, so information on all the channels, as you would expect. So So if you weren't here yesterday, I think I explained briefly yesterday what I was going to be doing, but I'll explain it again. So I've bought a server. It's a pretty beefy machine, 12 gig of RAM. It's got a Xeon processor. If I can find this extra board for it, I can put a second processor in there and even more and more RAM. And that's going to run as my home server. I've been kind of missing having a home server since I moved into this apartment. I really, you know what? I actually am going to cook up a little. I'm going to cook up like a big webcam view, or I'm just gonna expand this webcam and make it enormous. Let's go. Whoa, yeah, that'll do. Look, that'll do for the moment. I'm gonna fix that later. But for the moment, that'll do. I gotta make sure I fix that before I start coding again. So yeah, yes. So yes. So I've been missing the home server, right? I'm very used to having one. I had one when I was living at home, and it was super useful. Network file share. For running services, for long-running tasks. So I want to run something that's going to have to go all night, and I don't want to leave my desktop PC on. I can leave that on. I can run it there. Persistent things, services, and of course, when you've got a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So as soon as I started thinking about, well, what could I do if I had a home server? I want to set up a wiki on it. Like a home wiki that's going to have information about the home and about nearby things. Yeah, all sorts of ideas. The sky is the limit when you start coming up with these ideas. And yeah, I really wanted to have a home server. I really miss one. I want to have a Plex server. In theory, mate, I made the bed. The bed is look, it's made. It's made. All right, thanks, Z-Man. Well, yeah, maybe, yeah. Thank you. So, yeah, you've lost my train of thought, mate. Yes, so, home server, incredibly useful. I've got all sorts of plans for it. I'm also thinking maybe I expose bits of it to the internet, and so the other thing I want to do with it is I want to use it as a learning tool. So, what I'm going to be doing with it, I'm going to be installing CoreOS Container Linux, which is a Linux distro from the CoreOS guys who do a lot of interesting container technology, and they've just been bought by Red Hat. And so it's going to run in Container Linux with Kubernetes over the top, and that's also purely just for me to learn and get better at administrating and running and writing Kubernetes, I don't know what you call them, but configurations basically. And along the way, I was like, well, this is going to give me a great opportunity to learn a bit more about infrastructure as code, and learn a few, and put another few tools in my toolkit. What does it say? Vim recording there. Yeah, that's better. Put another few tools in my toolkit, and I came across these wonderful projects. And look, let's actually browse to them right now. I've got that masonry page up from the other day. So the technologies that we're going to be using today. So what I was saying yesterday was that if you're in AWS, I need to. Hey, Pope Code, thanks for joining. I probably need to make my little stream, this thing, a bit smaller again. Yes, I do. There we go. Let's see. I've got it aligned to here. Okay, that's the right size. Cool. So if you joined yesterday, what I was saying was that I'm going to be using what I initially thought was I'll just stick a live USB into this server and I'll install an OS and it'll be fine, right? That's the normal way I've always installed operating systems before. The stove story. I'll tell you in a sec after I finish explaining this one. It's not very interesting. Yeah, the way you normally install an OS is you just stick a USB stick in there, it boots off that, and then you install to the hard drive and it's done. But what you really want to do, the efficient way of doing it, is having everything automated. So declarative infrastructure and saying, well, I've got this hardware, I want to install this and provision this and install these services and this software and format the hard drives this way. And then you don't have to worry at all about a configuration drift. And if you need a new server, you just change the configuration or just reinitialize it. It's very easy to throw things away and start them up again. And that's kind of what I want, because I've kind of seen the light in that, yes, it is more effort up front to get these things working, but in the long run, it's a lot better because you don't have to sort of panic. If something goes wrong with the server, you can just nuke it and come back with a new one, right? So it's upfront investment for time saved later on, because there's been many, many times, and I can anticipate sort of even worse cases of this, where the server is broken or it's in some bad state or I need to update it or it's not working and I don't have time to fix it, and then the home network and I can't do shit. And you know, there's nothing more frustrating than, oh yeah guys, come over to my house, we'll watch you know, the new Game of Thrones or something, and then you try and stream it and like it doesn't work and you're like, what are we gonna do? Like, you've got to, you know, yeah, it's not a good feeling inviting people over for something and then not being able to, you know, deliver on the goods, right? So being able to just kick it in the head and start at scratch. I mean, I don't think this process actually takes very long. The process that I'm going to set up of installing this OS and configuring the software, I think it's going to be like 15-20 minutes from nothing, you know, formatted hard drives to fully working container OS. So it's the sort of thing where, yeah, I could come home and kick it in the head and start from scratch and it would be totally fine. I'd have enough time to sort of fix it. Yeah. So I think it's going to be really cool. And so some of the technologies that I'm going to be using are CoreOS Ignition. So Ignition, you can see it's a provisioning utility. It's a tool for manipulating disk during early boot, right? Includes partitioning, formatting, writing files, configuring users. On the first boot, Ignition reads configuration from a source of truth, a remote URL, and then applies the configuration. Even though it only runs once, it packs a powerful punch because it runs so early in the process. It's able to do things before user space has begun booting, which gives you some pretty advanced features and some powerful stuff. So that's Ignition from CoreOS. CoreOS have an insane number of products, like 80 or something. So I can understand why Red Hat bought them. I thought it was just like Container Linux Key, which is their predictive browser results could be dangerous. Yes, they could. Maybe I should do this in an incognito window. But I tend to do my porn browsing in incognito anyway, so I think I'll be fine, Z-Man. So Ignition, Matchbox is the next tool. Matchbox Core OS. They're also... So Matchbox is a network boot and provision container. A network boot and provisioner, right? So you can see here, Matchbox is a service that matches bare metal machines based on Mac UUID to profiles the PXE boot and provision container Linux clusters. So profiles specify the kernel, init ID, kernel arguments, iPXE config, grub config, container Linux config, and other things, right? So what this effectively does is you've got that ignition config that's going to get executed, which is how to provision and install the operating system. But before that, you have to actually get that configuration onto your machine. And what you want is you want a system where when the machine reaches out, because the way the whole PXE thing works, that PXE, I was watching a video and the guy called it PXE. I think that's a cool name. So PXE and iPXE, the way they work is they're just tacked onto regular DHCP requests. So when your machine boots and it requests an IP from its gateway, it can also request other things, and it can request request things like, hey, how should I boot? And that's what PXE is. It's a pre-execution environment, right? You can see down here, background PXE booting. Let's have a look at that. Yeah. Oh shit. Thank God there was this this diagram here, because I was hoping for something like that. Yeah. So basically, it does a DHCP discover, and then this DHCP server offers it an IP, and it tells you where to get where this TFTP server is, which is where to get the pre-boot execution environment so that it can boot up and start bootstrapping itself, right? So that's what Matchbox does. Is Matchbox says, okay, when you boot, I'm going to give you a particular configuration, and that's going to determine how you boot up. So for me, that's really useful, because this server, I'm pretty sure if the guy was not lying in his ad, it comes with two 250 gig hard drives. I'm going to put many more in there. I'm going to put some big, 2-4 terabyte maybe in RAID, but start at 250 gig, and one hard drive just to begin with, I want to have provisioned with the OS, and the other hard drive I want to have provisioned with like a better FS partition that I can then expand onto the other hard drives if I want, or when I want, right? And so what that's useful for is I can then, what I'm going to do, and what today will partly it's going to be messing around and seeing how this iPixie stuff works in VirtualBox, but it's also going to be writing a bit of Terraform, I'll get to that in a sec, to determine how that provisioning is going to happen and what hard drives are going to get provisioned how, right? That's kind of the bit that I'm going to actually work on today, is putting that in sort of configuration. And what that will enable is that if I ever get another server, right, I can then program that to come up with a different hardware configuration. Like if it's got 4 hard drives and I want to provision them in a different way, I can do that, and I can control that based on the MAC address of the device that's booting, right? So, and many other things. I mean, you know, one of the things that this project called Typhoon that I'm going to be using does out of the box is it automatically configures Kubernetes controllers and Kubernetes workers. So if I get another PC, I want that to be a worker. I probably don't want it to be another controller. So I can boot that up with the controller config, as opposed to with the master, and I can change its hard drives. And if I put more hard drives, I'm thinking, and if I understand correctly, the easiest way to do this could be even that if I get more hard drives in this machine, provisioning them could be like re-provisioning them with Pixie or with Matchbox. Possibly not, because I think maybe, does it wipe the hard drives or something? But anyway, yeah, configuration as code, which is going to be really useful. And so Matchbox does that, enables you to say, okay, this MAC address is going to get this config, this MAC address is going to get that config, which is super, super powerful. And then we're going to be using Terraform. So Terraform, if you haven't seen it before, infrastructure as code tool. It's got a really nice syntax, very, very popular at the moment. And what Matchbox provides is it provides a gRPC endpoint for Terraform to connect to, so Terraform can pull the string. So Terraform can say, okay, Matchbox, serve this config to this MAC address, this config to that MAC address, and it integrates with the rest of your configuration as code life cycle. And it'll also track the servers that are getting provisioned, right? So again, it's like, you get the benefits of Terraform. If Terraform says, hey, I can't find this PC that was supposed to be configured in this way, it'll re-provision it. And so obviously this is meant for enormous data centers, where you've got hundreds of servers, but it's useful for me to learn. Maybe I'll be working in that environment eventually. Who knows? I think it's just going to be fun and really interesting. So without further ado, Z-Man, the heating is programmable. Well. Twitch plays Aaron's heating. Could that be a thing? You know, in the popular Twitch plays vein. Yeah, look, definitely could be. All that stuff is super interesting. I have a project, so my apartment has like a split system air conditioner and heater, and it takes controls over IR. So I've bought some IR LEDs. I think they're sitting in my car. In theory, I'm hoping to plug them in and actually be able to control the heater remotely and possibly expose it as like a Google Home device, and then I could, you know, say, okay, Google, and my bloody Google Home's turning on right now on my phone. But anyway, I could do that, and then I could say, hey, turn on the heating, and then it would turn on the heating, which would be really useful. So yeah, programmable heaters. There it goes. Thanks, Google. Love you. So that's what's going on there. It would be pretty interesting, pretty fun. I'm thinking of, I'm gonna put some smart lights in this home as well. So that's gonna be really cool. I'm gonna try and put, you know, basically every single light bulb and a couple of lamps. So I mean, there's already apps for that, but that'll be integrated with the Google Home. But yeah, you know, you can do all sorts of things. So yeah, programmable heating, pretty cool. All right, so I think we should get rolling. I'm going to close this, close project. I might open a new one in a second. Oh, it's going to stay over the top, is it? No, let's just close that. Okay, so let's go. So I do have a let's close some of these things. I do actually have a repo that I've been working in. I think I'm gonna, well, no, so anyway, I'll just show you the repo. I just wrote some notes in there the other day, which was around Typhoon. Yeah, so I forked this Typhoon project, right? Because this is the thing that's actually going to provide the Terraform configs, which will allow us to, you know, pull the strings on Matchbox and get it up and running, and allow us to boot from it. So you can see in here, Where did I put my comments? This is my forked. What did I do? Add LVM provisioning. Yeah, it's not really LVM anymore. I was going to use LVM, so LVM logical volume management. Um, excuse me. Oh, the stove story. Sorry, the stove story. Yes, okay. The stove story. Should I bring my face big up again so that you can see my emotions? There we go. So, the stove story. Wait, what didn't I tell about the stove story yesterday? The stove did eventually arrive. If you watch the stream till about 11:30 or 40, like the dude was supposed to be there at 8:30 and 10, between 8:30 and 10, and he ended up coming at 11:30. So yeah, no sense of tardiness there. And he delivered the stove. I mean, he delivered the stove. The stovetop is sitting in my living room. It cost $400. I don't know how much that is. I suspect that's probably the cheapest electric stovetop they could find, but that's fine. I'll deal with it. It's got like touch controls. I mean, that's fun because it means it's easy to clean. There's no knobs for scunge to get scunged under. The stove story, yeah, it's not very interesting. Just took them 3 months to fix. I'm just going to be really glad when I can simmer something on the stove. That's going to be just glorious. Do you want me to go into more detail there? They just screwed me around. They said they were getting a quote for it. They definitely weren't getting a quote for it. So, yeah, it just took 3 months. I mean, the one thing that's come out of it is I've realized that if you are a real estate, maybe not a real estate agent, but like a property manager, if real estate agents sell homes, I guess that's different. But like, if you're a property manager, your job after you've like rented or sold the property is to manage a relationship between the tenant and the landlord. If you can't do that, if you can't respond to simple emails, if it takes you 3 months to get shit done, you are crying out for your job to be automated. And I started designing this in my mind the other week. I was like, how could we automate the job of the landlord, or of the property manager? Well, really all they do is mediate things between the tenant and the landlord, right? So can we replace that with some sort of like question system where you have like specific, like essentially specific like types of communication, like I need a new blah, like I have a repair thing, like and then the landlord in their direction as well, I'm coming for an inspection. And so you do kind of like Airbnb do, where you abstract out the emails so that nobody knows anybody's email address, and you mediate that conversation, and then you have people like a small bank of customer support people who can solve disputes, and there you go, you've automated the property manager's job, basically. So fuck them. I hope they get automated out of a job, and if I've got nothing else to do, maybe I'll be the one that does it. So what happened to the old one? Oh, it was fucked when I got here. Like, should I swear on this channel? I have said to people recently, hey, get your like younger brother who's interested in coding, or younger sister who's interested in coding to watch this stream. Maybe I shouldn't swear. Maybe I'll try and keep it reasonably clean. But anyway, whatever. There's none of those people here now, I don't think. If you are a small child, please let me know, and I'll stop swearing. But yeah, it was stuffed when I got into the apartment. I got like 2 days in here. I think the first time I cooked, I made aglio olio peperoncino, right? Which is Italian, like garlic, lots of olive oil, a bit of chili, a bit of parsley, just like sort of toss in the pasta, and you just kind of fry up the garlic. And like I noticed, yeah, fried up very quick, but you know, it was fine enough. And that was delicious. And the next night I cooked, and this was like night 3 of like being in this place. I tried to simmer a pasta sauce, and I tried to simmer some tomato, and I was like, oh, that's not simmering. And I was like, why is it so hot? And then I realized that like, oh, it's fucked. Like it comes on full blast immediately. So the temperature control was busted. I read up a little bit. Sounds like there's some like solenoids or something, and maybe not solenoids. There's some, I don't know, something in there that can fail. And it clearly had failed, and it's a symptom, and every single burner was that way. So I'm like, well, I doubt this happened all at once. So the last tenants probably had the exact same problem. Maybe they just didn't do anything about it or whatever. And so yeah, I complained about it on day 3, and it's now day like 95, and it's only getting fixed tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. So that's the stove story. Excuse me. And with that, I think we're ready to get going with the stream. I'm going to make this guy really small again. I'm going to switch back to my... Now I've closed my IDE. That's right. I know roughly how small it should be. That's roughly how small it should be. We'll correct it in a sec. Cool. So here we are in this repo that I forked from the main Typhoon project, because I'm going to need to make a few little changes in here just to provide a few different values into this provider. Right, so this is a Terraform module, so I'm going to have to provide values into this module, but I want to customize it a bit so that I can provide slightly more information about how I want things formatted, right? And it clearly had failed. Yeah, I agree. It was very, 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 very clear to me, and it was very clear to the electrician that came, because the electrician came one day to inspect it, and he was like, "Yeah, that's a newie." He was like this really like hilarious old dude, right? And he took like one look at it and switched on the stove and was like, "Yep, that's a newie," and then just like spent 5 minutes measuring it and then left. Like, it was, you know, very, very obvious to him. The only reason it wasn't like immediately, like I toyed with it for a few days. I was like, oh, it's just me. Do I not understand stoves, electric stoves? Because I've only ever had a gas one. But no, it was stuffed. So Typhoon. So this is the configuration for bare metal, right? And so what we want to do here is, well, I did put some notes. Where did I put some notes? Was it in the profiles.tf? Nope. It was in the groups.tf. Yes, okay, so here's a little note that I've written, right? Needs to update container Linux configs to create additional partitions. Follow templates at blah. Either just format the root as betterfs and expand it across all hard drives, or create a separate data partition on the second hard drive. Okay, so I think we're going to actually go with the first thing here. These are notes that I was writing the other day when I was researching. So let's just have a look at what this link is, because I've kind of forgotten. Okay, right. So this is how to... So what happens is you'll see that... so this is a bunch of Terraform that kind of controls how those profiles are created. Like, it kind of iterates over a list of things and maps them to MAC addresses. But what's in here are these container links install YAMLs, right? So what Matchbox does is you give it this container. So Ignition takes a JSON config. That's why here you can see JSON, right? But it also provides this like transpilation thing where you provide a YAML config, because people like YAML more than JSON. I personally just like JSON, but people seem to love YAML. I personally find YAML even more confusing, but whatever. You provide it YAML, and then it turns it into this JSON. So this is the YAML that we're going to actually edit. So the way this works is, give you sort of a bit of an overview. Here we define what Matchbox calls groups, right? So group is a group of servers that you want to be provisioned in the same way. So you can see we're defining Matchbox group container Linux install, Matchbox group controller, and Matchbox group worker, right? And so these are groups of servers. Now the way this works is that the container Linux install Matchbox group, that's where we're going to install the base OS. And then once those are done, you can see here we've got this selector OS equals installed. What happens is, once the container Linux initial PXE boot happens, right, via PXE, via that automated sort of bootstrapping method, the server, once it's PXE booted, actually makes another request to the Matchbox server to get another config, and that's that controller and worker config, right? So it's like a two-stage process. And this OS installed, when you make that request, and we can see it in one of the other config files, you pass as a query string parameter OS equals installed. And then that way, when it gets to Matchbox, it goes, I'm in the second stage of this installation. And you could potentially do even more with that, and you could have more stages of installation. But this is all we kind of need for the moment. So these are the groups that you define here. So you define like how many groups there are, because you define... It's a little bit deceptive, because from what I can tell, you're almost defining a separate group for each machine. You're using Terraform's count parameter to iterate over things and customize it per machine, but they're kind of like broad groups, and you can see they've got names and then they've got profiles. And so these profiles, so each group has a profile, and that maps into this profiles.tf, right? And this is where you actually those templates that I showed you, I'll show them again in a second, but you basically take a template for an ignition config and inject some config parameters into it based on variables that either the user has defined or variables related to the servers themselves, like MAC address and what IP address they have and what host name you want to give them, right? And these in here are the templates that we're parsing, right? So they're YAML templates, and you can see there's little template strings in here, ignition endpoint. And this is actually what I was talking about before, where you inject the ignition endpoint, and then you see here we're passing OS equals installed. So Matchbox knows, okay, don't give you the base container Linux install group, assign you to either the worker or the controller group, depending on your MAC address, and then we'll give you either the worker or controller profile, and you can boot and install those things, right? So that's basically how this system works. So let me actually get up a terminal, just make sure, because what we have to do with this is we have to not OS installed. It's funny that that's exactly what I had in my clipboard. Why is that going over the top of? Yeah, that's better. So let me just do a Docker PS. Right, so, okay, we do need to start up, I think, one more thing needs to be started up here. I don't think we have the Matchbox server running. So, but you can see here we've got a few, well, we've got our Twitch follower update. So the followers should be actually updating properly down here. But you can see that we've got this key.io CoreOS DNS mask. This is a that's a DNS mask server that CoreOS provides you to make this stuff, getting up and running with this stuff really easy. And what it gives you is it gives you a secondary DNS. Well, no, sorry, it doesn't. Does it give you a DNS server and a TFTP server? It doesn't do DHCP because my router is doing DHCP. You don't really want to have two servers doing DHCP on the network. So you just have one server doing DHCP, and then you spin up this DNS mask container, and that handles the serving of the Pixie images, and it handles yeah, the serving of the Pixie images, and I think probably some advertisation that it can do that. So running that in container. The other thing we have to run in container, and I'm going to have to get up the Docker here, Matchbox container CoreOS. The other thing we want to run is we want to run this Matchbox server, right? Because that's the server that's actually going to listen to requests and serve things to Pixie. So I think there's Matchbox with provision physical Matchbox with Docker. I think that's what I want. Yep, I think so. I think this is this what I want? No, this is not what I want. There was something, oh, hang on. Typhoon. Yeah, sorry, there's information in the Typhoon documentation on how to get up and running with that DNS mask server. Bare metal. Cool. Matchbox. There we go. Yeah, I've done this stuff already, so I just need to installing on a server. That's what I need. Cool, I've done this stuff. I've installed customization, start Matchbox. Right, we just need to do this. Oh, it's a daemon. Oh, I didn't realize. Oh, so it's probably already running. Let's just sudo system control status Matchbox. Type my password wrong. Oh no, there we go. Oh, it's running. Okay, it is running. Cool. It's using my TLS certificates and okay, great. And in fact, we should be able to go curl HP 10.0, I think 2.1 /conf 8080. I think if we do that, yeah, Matchbox, right? So that means it's working. And I think if we do 8081, oh, it gives a binary output. Probably gives it some sort of certificate challenge. But yeah, that means it's running. Okay, cool. I forgot I installed that as a service. So that's up and running. So what we need to do now, actually, let me clone this repo. I think that's definitely something we need to do right off the bat. Clone and let's see, code. Oh, let's just clone it. Yeah, clone, git clone. Clones here. Cool. So as I said, this is a fork of the repo. We kind of don't need probably most of the stuff that's in that repo, to be honest. We really just need this bare metal config. I'm sort of in two minds about should I put it in my own thing, or should I just leave it there? The advantage of leaving it there is that if they change things upstream, I can way more easily. And when I say sort of move it to my own thing, I mean basically take this folder, this bare metal container Linux Kubernetes folder, and then make it just a standalone Terraform repo. There's advantages to that. It's much cleaner, but I don't think it's necessarily a better idea. I think it's probably preferable to leave it there, because then if there's changes upstream in the main Typhoon project, I can merge them in a lot more easily if I haven't changed the entire structure of the repo. You could probably do something with like sub repos or something like that, but I don't think so. I think I'm just going to leave it that way. Okay, cool. So we've got that cloned. Now let's open up WebStorm, and let's run this bad boy in WebStorm, because I'm pretty sure WebStorm has a plugin for Terraform. If not, we'll install one. It probably doesn't have it out of the box. There's a plugin that I've heard that is really good, which does. Now, do we create new project or do we open? No, there's no new project. Create new project. Empty project. Hi, Coint. Thanks for joining. Appreciate you tuning in. Just let me know if you want an explanation of what we're doing. Happy to give it again. I want to check out from version. No, it's already checked out from version control. I think I just want to open. You get. Where is that folder? It was called Typhoon. That's right. Typhoon. Cool. Here we go. Okay, now it doesn't know anything about these Terraform files. Is it going to do any highlighting for me? That's a no. Install plugins. Cool, that's what we want. Awesome. Terraform language support. That's really what I'm looking for. And I've got to restart. I'm fine with that. I've heard this support in WebStorm is amazing. I haven't. So at work, we don't have WebStorm, unfortunately. Trust me, that will be remedied at my new employer, that's for sure. But yeah, for whatever reason, we don't have WebStorm, or it's frustratingly difficult to get access to it. So instead, we just use, I'll just use VS Code or something. You have no idea what it is, no idea what which is. Do you want to hear about the whole project, or about what is going on, or let me know what you want to hear about. I'm happy to explain. I probably do want to git ignore, but I'll do that in a second. Oh, what Terraform is. Sorry, I didn't see. Thought you said what it is. So Terraform is a really amazing tool. It's an infrastructure as code declarative language and runtime and state management engine. A bunch of things. Basically, what Terraform does is you can see here, for example, I'm in the wrong folder anyway. That's fine. Well, no, actually, this is probably a good idea because I can talk to some of the AWS things. So, for example, security. If you've used AWS before, and I don't know if you have, Coint, but you can see here, resource, AWS security group, that's the type of the resource, and we're calling it controller. And then we have some parameters that define what this resource is, right? So the name, the description, what VPC it's connected to, and what tags it has. Let's see another option. There's a VPC, there's a route table, there's a subnet, there's a route table association. So basically, every single resource you can create, and sometimes even more because of the way this works, every single resource you can create in Terraform, you can create in AWS, and also, as you can see here, DigitalOcean, Google Cloud, you can define in Terraform. And then what you do is you do what's called a Terraform apply, and it will go out into the cloud using an API key or using like an access key that you generated for AWS, and it will actually go and create your infrastructure for you, which is amazing, right? No more clicking through the AWS console. It just goes out and builds the infrastructure the way you've declared it, The other nice thing that it does, and so that's not that insane. So AWS have a product called CloudFormation, which does a similar thing. You can write down what infrastructure you want in sort of a template, and it'll go and build it for you. What Terraform adds, which is really cool and very, very useful, is it adds state, like persistence to that. So, for example, if you Terraform CloudFormation templates are strictly create all this stuff or destroy everything, right? What you can do here is you can say, okay, create all this stuff. Let's say create this VPC, and then afterwards, I want to disable DNS support. All I do is I go false here, save, and then you can do a plan before you do an apply, and it will go out to Terraform, right? Sorry, it will go out to AWS, and it'll say, okay, here are all the things I created last time. Oh, this AWS VPC called network, I created it last time, but before I created it with enable DNS support set to true. It's now false. It'll say, here is the delta between what you have up there and what you've declared in your template, and here's what will happen if I apply it. So for objects like this, which I think you would be able to like just switch off enabling DNS support, it'll just say it's going to modify, and it puts a little tilde symbol, and it'll say it's got one resource to modify, change enable DNS support from true to false. For other resources which are more immutable, which is things like launch configurations and some properties on RDS servers, like the root password, or even sizes of things. So you can't just resize like an instance, right? You've got to kill it and bring up a new one with a different size. It'll figure that out too, and it'll say, okay, well, I've got one thing to destroy. One thing to destroy and one thing to create. It's going to have to create. And it'll even tell you, like, because you enabled this parameter or you changed this parameter, it forces a reprovision, right? So it's super, super powerful. I'll change that back to true so I don't get weird Git stuff. And it's very, very, you can do things like, see here, we're referring to other objects. So we go, the VPC ID of this thing is the AWS VPC dot the network ID. So you can make references between different things. You can do variable interpolation. It does template interpolation. It's really, really amazing. And I've been using it for probably almost a year now. And it's so, so good. And it supports so many different things. And what blew my mind was that it supports what I'm about to do, which is like actual physical bare metal hardware, right? Sorry, where'd my thing go? Back to here. It supports physical hardware in the sense that you can write Terraform, they call them providers, which provide you functionality that you can play around with for different scenarios. So we're in this repo, and what I want to do is I want to go into this bare metal folder. What I think we need to modify is, some of our variables, right? So this is where we inject, yeah, because this thing that we're actually modifying here is actually kind of like a framework. It's not actually what's going to be run. We're going to run our own little Terraform provisioner with our own configuration. But here, good to hear, Coink Coink, glad you get it. So here, we're going to define some variables that are then going to be injected from another context, right, which is going to be referencing this as a module. That's the other great thing about Terraform is it has, look, it definitely has some quirks, don't get me wrong, and I think they're going through a rewrite of their kind of syntax at the moment to enable some more advanced features around sort of iteration and selection, which are things that right now are pretty actually difficult to do. You've got to kind of hack it in. But it has some interesting features around being able to resolve templates and being able to modularize things. So you can create, and so what this is this is a Terraform module, and it accepts a bunch of variables and then effectively functions as a black box and can give you outputs back. And that's really powerful as well, because it means you don't have to define the same thing, don't repeat yourself, right? You can keep things very dry by splitting out functionality that you use over and over again into a particular module. So you can maybe create like a module of a couple of EC2 instances, put them in a security group, put them behind a elastic load balancer, and have them inside of VPC, and then you can just take that and like stamp it out a bunch of times and create a bunch of those configurations, which is incredibly useful when, for example, you're setting up a dev, a test, a sit, a UAT, and then a prod environment. they're all basically the same potentially, except maybe you have things like different instance sizing, and different numbers of servers, and maybe a few different other things. You can define that base thing as a module and have inputs in there, and then you don't repeat yourself over and over again. Excuse me when I take a sip of the coffee. And so, yeah, and then if one thing changes, for example, let's say you change the elastic load balancer for a network load balancer, you just change it in one spot, and then everything else auto updates, and it will manage the state, and it will manage the destruction and the recreation. So it is amazing. I love it. So what we're going to have to do today, I think the way to achieve what I want, which is that, excuse me for a second. I think what we want to achieve is we want to have, I can show you what the input to this is supposed to look like. They've got some instructions in here on how to, so instructions in here on what your Terraform config should look like, and I'll show you how I'm going to modify it so that it gives me what I want. So this is all the Terraform is going to look like, I think. I think that's all we really need in our Terraform, in our variable TF. We just need to define these variables, and we need to just reference this bare metal Linux Terraform module, right? And what I want to add is see down, so we can define a bunch of things, right? It's defining some providers, but then it's defining cluster name, HTTP endpoint, KDS domain name, controller, controller max, controller domains, worker names, worker max, worker domains. I think what I want to do is I want to have an extra field here called like controller hard drive config, controller storage configuration maybe, and then that's going to have some things in there which will determine how our storage devices should be mapped and created, right? And I guess once I get into this, I think it'll become apparent. I'm not doing a design up front. I think we're just going to get in there and play around and see how it goes. But that's sort of my plan, is we'll have controller storage configuration, and maybe worker storage configuration. We'll provide that too, just in case we have workers, even though my thing at the moment is just going to be a one node cluster, not really even a cluster, but just one node. And hopefully by, if we ever have workers in the future, we'll be able to provide that. And I guess I could provide this as a patch to upstream, potentially. I don't know how useful it is to them. I might just keep it to myself. But yeah, that's the idea, is we're going to have an extra variable in here for both the controller and the worker. They're both going to be lists because they're going to match up with the other nodes. And they're going to provide information on how the hard drive should be provisioned, right? So let's jump back into the variables. The first thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to define interesting, unofficial, undocumented, unsupported, temporary. That's a good one. Okay, so we probably want to be in these, in these machines. Cool. So we want to add another variable in here, variable, and we're going to call it controller storage configuration, and it's going to be of type list. And we're going to do exactly the same thing for our workers, right? Worker storage configuration. Right. So now we've got those variables set up. Let's get rid of that. So these variables are actually read in a few places. In the profiles, well, what we need to do is we need to figure out how this container Linux install YAML is going to be, and actually, how do we set this as type YAML? I'm not sure. There's got to be a way of Terraform tools, Terraform format. Interesting. There's got to be a way of setting this as like type YAML file, but that's okay. We'll do that at some other point. What we need to figure out here though is we need to figure out how to add in. See how there's this storage thing, right? We've got to figure out how to basically intercept the configuration here. Well, not intercept, but alter slightly the configuration. And I don't know if it happens. Does it happen in here instead? No, because that's files. Yeah, so what we need to do is we need to basically change this configuration to accept variables that are going to let us alter the provisioning of the root device. So where's my ignition config example? Right, so this is the config example that I'd linked to excuse me, in my when I was doing my research the other day. So the partition structure of container Linux is actually really interesting. It's based on what Chrome OS do, which is very fascinating. I wonder if there's any cross-pollination of talent there between those teams. But regardless, it's got an interesting file system setup in that it has all these, like if you've ever looked at a Chrome OS device, I've got an old Chromebook that I should probably revive, but I used to use it when I was in uni because it was a nice, very, very cheap $300 laptop, and it worked just beautifully for the purpose that I had in mind. What was interesting is that if you look at the partition structure, there were like billions of partitions, not billions, but like 10 partitions or so, right? Which is strange because Linux install usually has maybe 3. You usually have a root, a home, and a boot. It can be useful to have a separate boot partition, you know, and more. Whereas this had many, 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 and I didn't really understand the reason. And it turns out the reason is that what they want to do is they actually want to do, I think you can do online upgrades, right? So upgrades while the system is running. Or at the very least, you can do your updates and then all you need to do is reboot and then you're back into the new system. And it makes it a lot easier. Well, I think what they actually do is actually have 2 separate like OS partitions, which is amazing. 2 separate partitions, and then they can basically, I think they can hot swap between them, but they may just, in fact, I'm pretty sure they can. Yeah, I think that's the whole point, is you could hot swap. You can say, okay, well, stop pointing to partition A, point to partition B, and then you've got your new update of your OS, which is pretty fancy. And there's obviously other partitions around there to support that, which is why they do it that way, right? And so with that, you have to sort of be a little bit careful around the partition structure. But I know that they set up a partition called root, and I thought that was somewhere in. Yeah. See how this file system has a label of data? Oh no, hang on. This was the instructions to do the data volume. Yes, maybe that is what we'll do in the end. Yeah, I think, yeah. So again, if you have a look at my little comments that I left to myself, which side note is always a great idea. If you're working on something and you know you're not going to be able to work on it again for another few days, leave yourself a little comment in the code that tells you what you were working on and what you were thinking and what your train of thought was, because it's really helpful to sort of get you back to that point that you're at. Ooh, I need to actually check out my branch. Git checkout, add LVM provisioning. Yeah, that's it. Cool. This should now have my little comment in there. There it is. So this is what I was talking about here. Either just format the root as betterfs and expand it across all hard drives, or create a separate data partition on the second hard drive. I think that's the route we're going to go with. So I'm not going to mess with Container Linux's existing, the way it would like to partition things. I'm just going to take the second hard drive, because I think Container Linux only touches the 1 hard drive. The second hard drive is just going to be a data partition, and it's going to be formatted as betterfs, and then that way we can expand that and we can do kind of software RAID things, and we can put it on other hard drives, and it should be really good. What I'm trying to avoid with this setup, because as I said much earlier, I don't know if you were here, Coin, but I was saying I had a server when I was living with my parents, and it was great, but we got into some tricky situations with the hard drive. Basically, I never want to be in a situation again where I've got some weird partitions that I thought were a good idea at the time, and then I have to like spend 5 hours moving partitions around and reformatting and swapping things around and merging things and all that sort of stuff. I don't want to have to be in that situation again. So what I want to do is I want to put everything on a partition scheme where I can just swap things at will. I can move things, I can resize things, because it's all software sort of volume management, and you can join things under the hood, and it might be over different hard drives, non-contiguous partitions, but you let the you let the partitioning sort of scheme or the partition type expose that to the operating system in a uniform manner, and I think that leads to a lot easier management. What was I looking for? I was looking for that. Thank you for the follow, by the way, Coin. Really appreciate that. That's what I was just fumbling around to get my little screen where I can see all my follows. Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate you watching. Hope this is interesting to you. We're gonna get stuck into the coding in a bit. It's a lot of talking to set up and set the context, and that's okay. I think that's how it has to be. So my idea here was to create a separate data partition on the second hard drive. So according to my docker here, that's what this is. Right. So under this storage section of the ignition config, they've defined the disks with partitions, number, size, start, and then they've defined a RAID setup, and then they've defined the file systems, and that will format those file systems with particular labels. Okay. I think that makes sense. Yeah. Hey, Coin, either am I, to be honest. But so far so good. That's good to hear. Hopefully, I'm not at. So I don't know if you've tuned in before, but I'm actually just a regular old developer. But I've got a lot of interest in infrastructure and sysadmin DevOps type stuff. I think that's something that is overlooked a lot of the time in development, and I've had a bit of exposure to it in my current job, and I've really got a bit of a passion for it. I think it's really fun. I think there's some really cutting edge stuff going on there, which really excites me. So yeah, good to hear that you can follow along, and hopefully you keep following. So okay, what I can see here is they're setting up some devices, and they're giving them partitions with labels, and then they're joining them as a RAID, like software RAID, and then they're formatting that RAID device that's going to be exposed as this data, device MD data, with ext4 as a data partition. So I think what we can do, so I'm just trying to think how I should structure this in terms of Terraform variables. I'm thinking the way to go is to, well, look, I guess it's up to how much flexibility I want to provide. It's very difficult to provide this extreme level of flexibility. I think, look, let's just keep it simple for the moment, and if we need to make it more complicated in the future, then let's do that then. I think making it super complicated right now is probably not the best idea. So what I want to do, let's start from the sort of bottom up. I've got to figure out what I'm going to put in here, and then we'll go from there. So I think under storage, I'm going to need a disks array. So let's go. I wish I could get, hang on. Let me just Google how to format WebStorm set file type. I don't want to register a new file type association. I just want to WebStorm specify file type. File types, change file association manually. No, I don't want to do that. I just want to settings file types association is one single file. Settings file types. No, that's not what I want either. File types, define file type patterns. There's got to be a way of doing this. I just want to basically say that this file encoding line separators. No. I just want to say that this file is a YAML file, because it's not getting that it's a YAML file. It's getting that it's a TPL YAML file. I guess, look, I can go into the settings and play around with it. YAML file type code style text files, code style, editor, file types. Okay, cool. So I can probably set it in here. I think we should go down to YAML. YAML, let's add one. star.yaml.tmpl. I think that should do it. Apply. There we go. I think it's got it. Yep, it's got it. Cool. So now it knows that this is YAML. That's what we want. And so now we want to add a section under this files section. Remember, as I said before, this is YAML, but it's going to get transpiled to JSON for Ignition to run on when we actually send it to Matchbox. So what we want to do is we want to set up a disks section. I presume that's... Anyway, we'll see. Like I said, I kind of don't like YAML that much. I know people bloody love it, but I really don't that much. Disks, and then we're going to go, yep, that's our first element in that disks array. We're only going to need one, and now I should probably do split screen, shouldn't I? What do you guys think? Is it more confusing for me to for me to be constantly switching between this config and our code, or should I just go like this and then have the other one on the other side? Let me know your thoughts. I'm curious. I'm still very new to the streaming thing, so I'm still learning what the best way of doing things is. For me, it's easier to do it like this because I'm used to working with multiple desktops and sort of context switching, but that may not be the best for you. So we're going to need this devices block with the partitions block. Okay, so the device, yeah, we're basically doing a very similar thing to what they're doing here, right? We're going to have device is going to be /dev/sdb, and our wipe table, we're going to say true. Wipe table true because we want to wipe the partition table. And we're going to say partitions. Oh no, we probably don't want another dash there. We just want to align that. Yeah, that looks better. YAML. Partitions is going to be, I think we're only going to have one element in this partitions section. Okay, I'm going to give it, I'm just going to call it data.1, I think. That's probably a good label. Data.1. And we don't have to put this in quotes, do we? Personally, you don't mind? Okay, good to know, quote. Thank you. I think we can just do it this way. I mean, I guess we'll find out. I don't know whether... Oh, no, that should probably be inside a string. I don't know how strings, like bare strings, work in YAML. And that should be the label. Label data.1, and let's put that in quotes just for interest's sake. And then number. Okay, so we might need to look up the Docker for this because I don't want to define the size of any of this. I just want to let it auto size. So hopefully it can figure that out by itself. So let's have a look at documentation, specifications, configuration specification 2.1. Let's open that in a new tab because we do actually want this configuration still up. Get that RAID data volume. Yep. So we're gonna have a look at the storage partitions. Yeah, okay, cool. That's exactly what we want, right? So if 0, partition will be made as large as possible. If 0, the partition will be positioned at the start of the largest block available. Cool. So we don't have to actually specify any of these things. I think we can basically have them auto specified. So we're just going to specify the data, and then we're going to go number 0, size 0, start 0. I think that's what we can do. Yeah, that seems right. Cool, because we don't want to specify any of those things. We just want to basically let it do its own thing. So that's our disks array, right? And then we also are going to need an array of partitions, if I'm not mistaken. Or sorry, file systems. This could be actually really quick and we actually get done this stream. File systems, and then that's going to be an array, and the first object is going to be mount, and that's also an array, I think. Is that an array or is that a... Yeah, it is an array. An array of objects. And then that's going to have device mount. You do have to indent, I think. Device is going to be /dev/sdb1. I think that's what the device is going to come up as. We'll test this. So I don't know if I mentioned it before, Coin, but I'm not actually going to test this on real hardware to begin with. Obviously I will eventually, but I'm going to actually test this in VirtualBox, so we'll be able to see whether this works and what happens and how it all gets partitioned, and it should be pretty exciting and fun. We're going to give it a format parameter of btrfs, and as I said before, that's just so that I didn't realize I was going to use LVM, which is going to require a whole lot of manual configuration in order to achieve that sort of like software managed partitioning and exposing just a single view of the partition structure to the operating system. But it turns out BetterFS can support that too. It does a bit of that in software. So I'm perfectly, or effectively BetterFS can span multiple partitions. So I'm happy to let that happen. Let's just make sure BTRFS, nope, why can't I type? Don't tell me Chrome's crashed. Would be most annoying. No, it's just that tab. Multiple devices. Yeah. So here we go. So this is I think this is what the kernel wiki page that I read. BTRFS file system can be created on top of many devices, and more devices can be added after the FS has been created. By default, metadata is mirrored. This is and data will be striped across all the devices present. Now that is interesting. I think that's probably a good thing. And it supports multiple RAID versions. Yeah, so you just need to metadata mirrored, and we can do striping and we can change things afterwards, right? So that should be fine. Yeah, and you can change the RAID type later on. So yeah, look, it's all very easy. It should be pretty good to go, and I think it's just, I don't think we have to pass any special parameters. Yeah, that seems fine. So, oops, and I just, it's because I was still typing in there. That's why it didn't work. Right, so our ignition config to it. Oh, and we also need a label, and we're going to call that data. And so that is a special magic string, and that's so that Core OS, so that Container Linux can pick up on that. So label data. Cool, and that should do it. I think that's pretty much it. And so if I'm reading this correctly, I think really the only parameters in here are what device do you want to be formatted? And we've got to match that up then. Sorry, what device do you want to be formatted as data? Or what devices? I think that's my reading of this is, I think all we need to do is we need to probably take some parameters as what do you want to be formatted as data, and then that should be our configuration. Which devices? The question is, should we do the device by UUID? I think that might be a better solution. And we should probably reference here the device by label. I think that's probably a slightly better idea than doing it another way, because otherwise we're going to run into issues where, yeah, I think we're going to run into issues if we don't do it that way, because it's going to sort of complain that it can't, we want these devices to really be static. So it's probably a little frustrating from a DevOps standpoint in that you're probably going to have to actually boot into the device and get the UUID of the hard drives, and I'm going to have to do this at some point. But I'm okay with that. I'm not sort of too fussed about that. I think that'll be alright. I think that's probably the best and most stable way of doing this, because otherwise I think these device labels, whether it's dev SDB or SDA, can change depending on whether on how the operating system boots, or not how the operating system boots, but how the just which device connects first or something. I think that's non-deterministic. I could be wrong about that, but I think it's not deterministic. So let's figure out how to reference that by UUID. And it's this way: dev disk by, oh, in fact, that is actually what we want. So that will go in here. So instead of that, we want dev disk by part label. That's probably why we label it in the first place. And then our label here was data1, data.1. Right, and we'll fix that up. We're going to inject a variable in there to replace that, so that these definitely match, and there's no sort of coupling there. We'll single source it, I guess. But let's just have a look. Devices by UID Linux. UUIDs in Linux, everything you need to know. There you go. Cool. So identify block devices. Yes, right? You have to add an entry like this for the block Linux implementation. You can generate new ones via proc. That's interesting. How to get them bash style. Okay, so you can reference them, and the way to do it is you go UUID. Excuse me. There we go. Dev disk by UUID. So that's what we want. So what we're going to do is we're going to put that in here. So our Terraform config is actually going to look for the device by the UUID, and then that's where we're going to inject the variables. So I'm going to have to figure out how to do this. Oh yeah, hang on, no. Yeah, I'm going to have to figure out how to do that, because what we want to do is we actually want to do this in an array, and we want to have this label auto incrementing and then matching up here. I think that's what we want to do, and I think what that will mean is that if we have multiple hard drives, they should all get merged into one big data partition. I think. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that's how it will work, although we may have to adjust how this is done. I wonder if there's support for that in Ignition. Configuration spec, file systems, device format, label, UID options, create, path. I think what we need to do is we need to pass a list of options. I think so, but I don't. How do we? It's interesting this is deprecated. How do we actually run? How do we actually run that tool, which is going to, because in here we were talking about, where were we? No, we're in BTRFS multiple devices, that little Google search. How do we actually pass those parameters which are going to let us get it across different drives? I wonder if that's something that's going to be very difficult. Perhaps what we just want to do is we just want to set them up. Where are we? Perhaps we just want to wipe table the devices and not actually set up. Well, okay. Look, maybe we have to throw that idea of formatting multiple drives out the window. Maybe I'm just going to have to do that manually after the fact. But look, that's okay. I can pass this as a then it just becomes a single variable with a UID. It's not even a controller storage configuration, worker storage configuration. All it's going to do is it's going to yeah. I'm just thinking how this is going to work. I think if we do this, if we call this $brace data device UUID, right? And then this is going to be data.device UUID count. Well, no, that's just going to be 1. Okay, look, let's not overcomplicate things here. I think we just want to do this like that. Or do we even want to declare this as data in there? Because we're not going to be... maybe perhaps this whole thing is folly. We don't actually want to declare this in here, because we're going to have to provision it afterwards because it could change. We don't want to format anything. Like if I've got data on there and I want to reprovision, I don't want to format my entire data drive. I just kind of want to not touch it. Just want to leave it alone. So yeah, look, maybe we don't need this whole thing. That kind of defeats part of the purpose of doing this. But it is still going to be very interesting to see if I can get this up and running and how it's going to all work. I want to remove all the manual management, but I'm sort of torn because I don't know if this is the right way to remove. There have to be some manual steps, I think. I don't think there's a way to say partition, and the data partition shouldn't need to change much. So look, I'm actually going to rip that out. It was a fun little experiment. I think that means we can just use the base provisioner. A little frustrating. Look, I can always come back to this at a later stage. I've got a fork of this. I can play around with it, I guess. But I think what we might actually do is we might just fall back to the regular implementation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to I might go and create something in here. I'm going to call it home network Terraform, and then cd in there. Do a get init. Cool. And let's open that in here. I think that'll be helpful. We want to open home network Terraform. Open it in this window. Yep. Cool. Okay, cool. So now we've got a blank repo. And let's follow the instructions here on how to actually get up and running with Typhoon. So let's just copy this config. So new file. What file is this supposed to go into? I think this should be in. I think this can just be in a main.tf. Main.tf. Okay, yeah, you can do that. That's fine. Cool. Paste that in here. Let's do I think I saw it in here. Code Terraform tools Terraform format file. No such file directory. That's annoying. Oh, do I not have Terraform installed? Oh man. Okay. Let's install that guy. Let's hope we don't have to. There it goes. Oh, nice. Oh, that's not very nice. Let's just do a Pacman update. Pacman is my package manager for Linux, and we don't want to update everything else because that's what that command does. Oh, and that doesn't seem to work. Huh? Why doesn't that work? Terraform. Yes. Okay, cool. It's fetching the package nicely now. Cool, that was quick. Okay, we should be able to Terraform format our code now. So, code done. That was easy. Alright, so, it doesn't like that. I wonder why. Streamlit got null. Interesting. Okay, so now it's pulling this bare metal, and we're going to call it bare metal Scoof home. We're going to call this whole thing Scoof home. Scoof home. Now, a Matchbox HTTP endpoint, we have to set this to the IP of our server, which is the current server, right? It's 10.0.2.1. That's the current IP of my machine in my local network. And my k@s domain name. Now, here's the... yeah, look, I'm sure that's going to be trusted to manage it by itself. So it's going to be... oh, hang on. What was that? Was that... so the controller name is going to be node1. I guess that's... or even controller. Controller 1. We're going to set these MAC addresses. Controller domains. Secrets, clusters, Scoof home, SSH authorized key. I'm going to have to add that in there in a sec. Wait, is that something that I need to fill in or something that's pre-filled for me? Container Linux channel is stable. I don't think that's the correct Container Linux channel. I think there's a different one that we need to run. Also, I should probably just exit out of here and just use this inbuilt terminal. That's helpful. So ls/, where did I put them? So I downloaded some Container Linux binaries already and put them in a particular... Oh, I also need the Terraform provider Matchbox plugin. So I'm going to do the cardinal sin of just getting random... or did I already do this? So, no, I don't think I did. So I'm just going to perform the cardinal sin of getting random files, which is always a good idea. Not. And where do they recommend downloading it to? Oh, it's just like a regular folder. I'll just stick it in my home folder. Okay, we're going to get that to here. Cool. Hopefully that's not too big. Look at this little scroll here. How fancy is that? Okay, and I need to change your infrastructure repository, concepts, Terraform modules. Okay. Oh, they've got ideas here about how to separate things into different... Okay, let's follow that when our download's done. I think we just need to untar this and then move it to, yeah, use local bin. Tar xvfz and then mv 2/user local bin. Cool. So we should be able to, and then we need to add it to our .terraform.rc, which I think will be empty because I've only just installed Terraform. .terraform.rc. Cool. Paste in. Oops, no, it didn't work. There we go. That was easy. Cool. And so let's just have a look at this concepts thing on how to organize things. So nodes provision in a declarative configuration upfront, controllers and workers. Terraform resources, declare an instance. So modules, versioning, organize. In a version repository, seek to organize configs to reflect resources that should be managed together in a Terraform apply invocation. Okay. Providers.tf registers provider APIs. Terraform.tf files stores shared values. Providers.tf registers provider APIs. What does that mean? And remote backends, yeah, we don't really need that at the moment. Okay, so I think bare metal, yeah. So we probably want that bare metal. Providers registers, providers APIs. I'm wondering what, oh, hang on, does that mean that what we really want is we actually want to split this? No, maybe not. So let's just call this Scoof Home. Yeah, let's change the name of this to refactor rename Scoof Home, because that's what we're going to be doing our stuff for. And then I want to look, maybe it'll just work like this. Let's close that for a second. But I do want to change these names, and that's right. I wanted to sort of figure out where I'd installed my where are we? Provider, cluster. Oh no, hang on, we need this provider. We need a Matchbox provider. Yep, cool. Okay, I skipped that little step. That's what's going to go in our providers.tf. Cool. So let's create a providers.tf file, providers.tf. Paste. Cool. And I think those are the correct paths. Let's just ls.config matchbox. No, .config. Oops. ls.config/matchbox. That should be there. Where did I create things? Where does this tell you to create things? Did I create them in the wrong spot or something? So you've got to do a bit of setup. I definitely set these up somewhere. Oh no, hang on. I've got a Matchbox folder somewhere on in my home drive. ls. Yeah. No, that's actually not where things are. Where did I put them? Where did I put them? They've got to be somewhere here. Did I put them in that Kubernetes folder? No, I did not. What other folders we got in here? Got a bunch of stuff in here. Memes. That's a good folder. Trust me, that is a good folder. What else can I? Where else did I put those things? Where would I have put them? ~.config./matchbox. I'm not just ls.config/matchbox. You like the memes folder, coin. It is a good folder, trust me. Where could I have put those? I had them somewhere. I didn't put them in my .ssh folder. What's .ssh? No, that looks normal. Maybe I didn't generate TLS. Where does this tell you to generate them? Cert gen. Maybe. Oh, hang on. Are they just in the scripts TLS folder? Matchbox scripts. Oops, no. Scripts TLS. Yes, they are. Yes, I need to move those. Okay. .config/matchbox, and then mvca.cert. What do we need to move there? Oh, etc/matchbox. No, sorry, I did put them in the right spot. That's just referencing different things. ls/etc/matchbox. Yes, that's where my keys are. Okay, it's trying to lead me astray. Cool. So I've got those, and I don't need to do that anymore. Right now, I need to. Okay, I just need to change these values. Cool. That's easy enough. So instead of those here, it's actually slash Etsy slash Matchbox slash Etsy slash Etsy, and the endpoint is not that at all. It is actually it's actually just a local IP. Again, it's going to be that 10.0.2.1 IP, which is my local host. Cool. Okay, so now we've got our providers file. Save that. And now our domain names. Now, I am very fuzzy around how this works and how the domain name provisioning works. I'm not sure if this needs to be... So I own the skoof.com domain, but I'm not sure if this will just automatically grab subdomains or how that's going to work. Or are they... Oh, no, maybe they're tied to the local CA. Yeah, I suspect that's how it works. So I think I can set this to whatever the hell I want. So I think I'm going to set this to node1 dot skoof dot home dot skoof dot local dot home dot skoof dot com. I think that'll do. We can always reprovision later, right? There's no reason why we can't. This SSH authorized key, I need to figure out whether that's gonna... Let's just leave this as node1. Node1 dot home dot skoof dot com. I'm not sure if we can... Let's go back to our bare metal documentation. Do we need to change that? There are variable docs here. So that k8s domain name... and I probably need to add those to my DNS config, to be honest. Otherwise, the network is not going to be able to find them. My container Linux version definitely needs to change. That SSH authorized key, SSH public key for user core. Or the public key. I probably need to generate one as well. I have to use my little secrets page to generate that. Anyway, look, I'm thinking I might just dive in and see how this works and see what happens and see what problems we run into. Okay, cool. So, back to here. I do need to figure out what version of Container Linux I installed way back up here. Let's see. So I did download Container Linux somewhere up here. Oops, why isn't it searching in here? This thing is bloody stealing focus. I don't like that at all. We don't Control F, Container Linux. I installed a particular version of Container Linux somewhere. Not installed it, sorry, just downloaded downloaded what I needed. No, that's not. Where is it? Where are you? And I can't remember where I put it. I think I put it in like, there's a standard folder. It's like var lib. Let's see if we can find it. / var lib. Is there a folder here for? Yeah, there is. ls / var / lib / matchbox. Yeah, that's what we want. Now, for some reason, this isn't. For some reason, something is wrong with this. Let's close this one aside. Why isn't up working? Yeah, it's clearing things instead of actually going up. I'll just sort that out at a later stage. Bloody keyword. I do love it though. So we want ls / var / lib / matchbox / assets. So this is to get the version. That's the version we want. So he's got to copy that in there. 1.1688.5.3. Cool. And I suspect we'll have to change that RSA key, but I might generate a new one at some point, which I'll obviously do off screen. And then these, I think we can just leave these blank because I don't have any workers, right? Not for the moment at least. Just got a master. Okay, I think we're almost ready to go, guys. This is pretty exciting. It's going to be a lot of fun if it actually bloody works. So, let's give this a go. Yes. What else do I have to configure? I need to configure. So let's actually bring over VirtualBox. Let's put that on screen 9. Where's VirtualBox gone? Cool. Sorry about that. I'll just make it fit the screen. Right. So I've got this test pixie thing. We're going to have to alter the settings, and what we want to do is we want to grab this MAC address and make it boot with that MAC address, because that's how the Matchbox server is going to know to serve at this configuration. So network, we're bridging the network adapter. We want to give it that MAC address. That's it. It doesn't like that. Let's just copy this MAC address in. I think that'll work. Oh no, we probably didn't want to cancel that. Network, advanced, we want a MAC address. Cool. Copy, okay. Cool, so back in here, we want to give it that MAC address so that it knows basically which server to provision how. That doesn't make sense. Huh? Does it start with 0, 0 or something? Wrong number of numbers in the bloody MAC address. What? Doesn't make sense at all. Oh, it's because it didn't copy properly. What? That's bloody annoying. Okay, so it starts with 08. Okay. And then 08. Oh, I think I just missed a letter. No, that's not copying. I think my keyboard has done something annoying again. I think it's set to the wrong... I think if I do this, or you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm pressing random buttons on my keyboard. And hopefully it's not doing too silly things up there. So if I do function... I think that might be working again. So I think if I go into my browser, I can test. Sorry about this, guys. Bloody keyboard. More trouble than they're worth sometimes. I don't know what that did, but it came up as Control T, and that's exactly what I need. So, okay, so I think it's working again. So I think if I do go back to Oracle here, Network, Advanced, okay, I should be able to Control C, and then in here, go paste. No, okay, we're just going to copy it manually. How frustrating. Right, 0800. I'm just going to read it out to myself. Oh, you know what? Can I copy and paste it in the chat? Yeah, I can. There you go, there's that MAC address that I need. But I can't probably paste it. That's probably the issue. It doesn't like being pasted. Or maybe it just copy just worked this time. Paste. Okay, that looks better. Cool. That MAC address. Just put the colons in. Yeah, and it actually fits this time. Okay, great. Cool. So now that MAC address is going to get provisioned with this configuration that we've set up. We should be... Oh, and I also probably need to set some other... Do I need to set some other variables? No, I think the defaults are fine. Hey, no worries. Thanks for tuning in, Mimiron010. Mimiron010. Yeah. I'm more than happy to explain. So what I'm working on is kick off that coffee. What I'm working on is oh, and thank you for the follow. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Hopefully, I can be a good source of procrastination while you're writing your paper. What's the paper on? What I'm doing is I'm configuring, so I've just bought a server for my home network, and I'm configuring it using Terraform. So what's going to happen is in a second when well, not Terraform just yet, because I'm actually using VirtualBox to test the configuration, but this is going to boot up. It's going to call out to a local server that I'm running, which is going to serve it like a pre-boot environment, and it's going to use that to actually bootstrap all the way to installing container Linux and installing Kubernetes on top of that. Psychological manipulation and child soldiers from a book in real life. Fascinating. So what's the topic? What degree are you studying, if you don't mind sharing? And I'm curious. It sounds like some sort of arts type degree, some sort of humanities thing. Totally outside of my wheelhouse. I think I wrote like maybe 1 or 2 essays when I was in university. I wrote a thesis, an honors thesis at some point, but kind of a different thing. But in terms of during undergrad, I wrote like a biology essay once. That was pretty much it, because I studied maths and a bit of chemistry. So not too many essays there. So I'm always fascinated by people writing essays on pretty interesting topics. But yeah, very interesting. Oh, right. Okay, gotcha. Okay, it's for a gen ed class, right? So in Australia, we don't really have the equivalent of gen ed. You can kind of take electives from different faculties and stuff, but it's not, I think, as like mandated as it is in the US. Although we do have one university in Melbourne that's kind of gone a bit more of that model, where you do kind of a very general undergraduate degree and then you specialize at a later date by doing a master's degree. But yeah, the university I went to, it was kind of like I did a science degree and I majored in maths, and I kind of just did maths, not a whole lot more else. I definitely could have, but in terms of all the stuff that I wanted to fit in, I was really excited about it at the time, and I didn't really do a whole lot much else. But that sounds really interesting. Hopefully you're enjoying it. Hopefully it's not too bad of an essay. Right, gotcha. Look, it's a two-edged sword. I think I probably would have benefited if I gotten a bit of a broader swathe of things. I think sometimes forcing people to go broad, it gets you different experiences, but if you're so focused on what you want to do, like I kind of was, then yeah, it can be really good to just jump straight into it. Yeah, it can be frustrating. I totally get it. I think my personal philosophy is that if you try and study as widely as possible and get as much knowledge as possible, you end up as a more well-rounded person, which seems to gel with that kind of like gen ed idea that they have in the US. I'm assuming it's the US. But I totally understand that not everybody wants to. I mean, it works very well for me because I like most subjects, but I know for people who are like, oh, I hate maths, it's very difficult to convince those people that, oh yeah, you should take a whole bunch of maths units. It's just impossible. So anyway, I totally get it. Not everything's always interesting, but to me it sounds interesting. I'd love to learn more about history in the world, and I feel like it's a bit, my knowledge is severely lacking. Anyway, back to this. So Terraform. So we're using Terraform, which is this configuration you see here, in order to provision these servers in an immutable way, right? So if we need to change the config, we actually update this, and then we're going to re-provision the server. So I'm testing it in VirtualBox for the moment, but later this afternoon, probably, it's going to be on a real bare metal server. That's totally... No, all good, man. I appreciate the chance to chat and get on a soapbox, sort of. Not really. But yes, I totally agree. In the US, it's a different story with how expensive everything is. I mean, stuff is expensive here, but we don't have to pay for it up front. We can get a loan for it. And it's less expensive, definitely, than you guys over there. So totally get that. You'd probably much rather not pay for stuff that's you're not that interested in. Just do the important things. Totally understand. Thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. Hopefully I can be a good source of entertainment and procrastination for your evening. So we're basically ready now to run this. And also, Mimuran 010, let me know if there's any particular things you want me to explain. It's kind of a complicated tech stack that's going on in the background here. But yeah, let me know if there's anything you want me to go into, because I'm happy to give you a rundown of what's going on. But I think we're pretty much ready to run this now, because that configuration looks good to me. We might have to change this SSH key, because that's probably a default SSH key that doesn't exist, but I think there's also a chance that it's going to generate one for us. So actually, no, that can't be right. It's going to have to use a particular... I'm going to have to generate that in a second, but let's just get things up and running, and then I'll chuck up my little secrets, entering secrets temporary page, and then I'll create that, and then we'll go from there. So back to these instructions. We've got the cluster defined. We need to add our private key to the SSH agent. Okay, no. So we're definitely going to need to create that, but that's all right. We're going to need to do a Terraform init. I'll do that now. So what Terraform init does is, you can see it's going out to Git and it's grabbing these module definitions, and that was the code that we were looking through before, which I was thinking of forking, but turns out we didn't really need to in the end. That's what it's doing. It's going out and getting that source, and it can sort of use that as a module as an input to the configuration. Well, that's what this configuration is basically doing, right? This configuration here are variable inputs to that Terraform module that lives out on GitHub. So yeah, and it's getting the source for a bunch of different things, and initializing some providers, some plugins, sorry, right? Because Terraform has a plugin system as well to allow it to allow you to extend it. Terraform is an amazing tool. Mimaron010, I know you said you're studying computer science. Have you ever played with Terraform before? Have you ever played with any kind of like AWS infrastructure stuff? I'm curious because I never did during my university education. I know I mentioned before I did a science degree, so I actually ended up doing 2 degrees, which was, trust me, a terrible idea. Being at university for 8 years, what a waste of time. I should have just gone and gotten a job. But I did a maths degree for 4 years, and then I went back and did a computer science degree, and another 4 years. Now I got a job sort of midway through that. Okay, so play around with Terraform and infrastructure. I don't know if you've done like internships or you want to get jobs, but like these skills are super high in demand. And if you've ever played with cloud infrastructure before, it's really, really awesome on a resume, because it shows that you've got a bit of like kind of semi-real world experience, even if all you did was create a free AWS account and use their free tier resources. Just play. It's like a totally different world. It's something that unfortunately my university didn't give me much insight into, and I wish I'd learned more, because it's crucial these days as a developer. Even if you're just a developer, even if you're not an infrastructure guy, quote unquote, or girl, whatever, an infrastructure person, it's just useful to understand how these bits and pieces work. And so Terraform is really good for, yeah, declaring, saying, I want this many servers, and I want them networked this way, and I want them behind load balancers this way, and assign them these domain names, and give them this launch configuration. And you can write that all in this sort of YAML-like JSON YAML mix in here, and then it'll go out and create it all for you. And it's totally amazing, and it's an incredible tool. I'm really love it. It's so cool. So we've done our Terraform init. That has pulled down our plugins. Now just give me 1 second, and I'm going to generate an SSH key, and we're going to plug that in here, and then I think we should be good to go. We should be good to start trying to boot that VirtualBox instance off of this Matchbox like pre-boot PXE ignition thing, and it should just bootstrap all the way into a Terraform, into a Kubernetes server. And we'll watch it go, and we'll see what happens. All right, so just excuse me for 1 second, guys. I'm going to chuck up this little entering secrets page. I'll keep chatting to you while I'm doing this. I just don't really want you to see me generate an SSH key, because I'm probably going to be lazy and not use the same one. And bloody, it's really frustrating that that WebStorm pinches your focus. That's really annoying, but that's okay. So I'm just Googling this because frankly I do not generate SSH keys very often. Yes, okay, cool. I just gotta make sure I generate it in the right location. So generate SSH keygen. So this is what's going to be used basically to securely authenticate with that server that we're going to be creating. In fact, probably all the servers in the cluster. Cool. Into that file. I'm going to put it .sh, and I'm going to call it home cluster, or Scoof home cluster RSA. And I'll probably put underscores because it's a good idea to copy the naming convention they already use, just in case there's some weird restrictions around around what you can do with that. As in, like, if it can only take underscores and you put dashes in there, and then it'll get frustrated with you. Okay, so I need to get the. Okay, I think I can pull this down now. I think I've got everything I need. Yeah. Yep. Cool. So we're back. Right. So now I need to now ls.ssh or ~/.ssh. There's all my keys. and I can cat that public key. Cat scoof. Here's where I reveal the SSH key and I have to do it again. Hopefully not. SkoufHome.pub, right? That's our public key. I think I can just take... Do I have to put the whole public key in there? Or is it just a little bit? Nah, it's got to be. It's got to be the whole thing. Okay, let's just copy that. Stop asking me things. And I think we just can paste that in here. It's got to be, right? It's got to be the whole public key. That's fine, right? So that's the public key, and we've got our private key private, and I need to add that to our, according to this bit of documentation here. We're done with that, we're done with that. We just need to add that to our SSH agent. Yeah, so I just need to add that to SSH agent, which I think should be running. SSH agent, yeah, looks fine. Just need to pass it tilde/.sh/scoof-home-cluster RSA. Permission denied. Sudo that. Permission denied? Huh. That's annoying. SSH. Do we need to make it agent permission denied? Oh. Apparently that will work. Is my taskbar at the top of the screen because I live upside down in the down under? I guess, in a manner of speaking, yes. The real answer is it's because I use Arch Linux, and I use the awesome window manager, and that's where it puts the taskbar. But yeah, I guess so. I guess so. This is just, it's funny you mention that. This is just how I've been rolling with Arch Linux for years. It doesn't even occur to me that it's at the wrong side. And what's funny is when I'm using Windows, which is quite often, because I use Windows at work at the very least, the taskbar is, I have no urge to move the taskbar to the top. It's just like different contexts. In fact, I use Windows. I've got Windows installed on this machine. But yeah, the taskbar lives at the top. Sorry, at the bottom on Windows. So yeah, there you go. Not sure why that is. But we can say it's because I live in the down under. I'll go with that. So now what's this about, this edit? SSH keygen. I've always added my SSH keys in a different way. I think... Oh, no, hang on. If we look at GitHub SSH key, there's a command here that I've always used. Which is like this SSH agent. Like, it executes it locally. It does like an eval. Expand for details. We don't need SSH compression. Add the public key to your Bitbucket, and then no, it didn't tell me how to do it. GitHub SSH key agent. Yeah, adding it to SSH agent. Here you go. I don't do this very often, so I've definitely forgotten. Ah, that's what I was looking for. That's what I was looking for. Starting it in the background. Paste. Yes, and then we go SSH agent, and then point it to my SSH key. SSH slash, yeah. Oh, come on. Come on. Okay, we have to go back to that Docker that we had. Close that, stealing focus. Agent permission denied. Okay, SSH agent forwarding. Yeah, I probably need to figure that out. Anyway, these are the results. chmod 644. Maybe I need to eval that. Hang on, actually, what is the permission on that SSH agent file? Oh, sorry, on the SSH key. ls tilde.ssh SkoufHome /l to get permissions. Oh, it's only read write root. That doesn't seem right. 660? Yeah, I think so. chmod 660 tilde/.ssh oops .ssh skoof. Right, now what happens if I do a SSH agent add? Still permission denied. Are we supposed to be doing an add or something? Am I passing the wrong parameter? What does add-l do? Oh, hang on, I should be calling SSH agent. I should be calling SSH add. Add tilde.sh. Oh, there we go. Oh, okay, it's ignoring it, so I should just chmod it back to 600. Oops, not that. tilde/.sh. Right. Okay. Right, got it. Okay, cool. We got it now. We got the SSH agent, the key added to the agent. SSH add-l, whatever that does. Yes, okay, good. No, that's good. That's my public, or is that my private key? Did I just leak my private key? No, it's the same as a public key. All G. We're all G. Cool. So, what that means is we should be able to do our Terraform apply, or Terraform plan at least, right? Terraform plan. So what's going to happen now? Etsy Matchbox client.cert, no such file or directory. Did I not move the client cert there? ls/etsy/matchbox. Oh, I didn't move the client cert there. Okay, I probably need to do that. Where did I generate these again? I found them when it said here, generate Matchbox installation on server, or even generate TLS certs. Ah, yes, it generates them in our scripts TLS folder. So I got to move the client. Ah, yeah, I got to move the client cert there. Okay, cool, no worries. So ls/tilde/matchbox/client matchbox scripts TLS. Yeah, so we just need to say m or cp even tilde/matchbox scripts TLS client.cert to Etsy Matchbox client.cert. Sudo that. Cool. Terraform plan again. Hopefully to call files. Okay. No such file. Oh, and I need the client key as well. Okay. Client.key. Client.key. Permission denied. Let's just ls that /etsy/matchbox. Let's see the permissions on it. ls/l etsy matchbox client.key. Read write root. Yeah, we don't want that. Let's make that a 660. Let's do a chown -r. Let's go users. Cool. And then let's do chmod make it 660. Dash R 660 slash C slash Matchbox. So that. Cool. All right, let's see if we can do a Terraform plan now. Permission denied again. Okay, it's working now. Okay, cool. Look, that was bloody fast. Yeah, because it's not reaching out. Normally, I'm used to, yes, normally I'm used to this needing to reach all the way out to AWS and confirm what's up there. Whereas it doesn't actually need to do that with here because this is all local stuff. Yes, very cool. So it's generated all this configuration. This is what it's going to apply, right? And so now we can go Terraform apply. What should happen? Yes. Okay, and it's just going to sit there and poll. Apparently it's connected to the Matchbox server, and it's just going to sit there and poll. We can have a look in this bare metal configuration guide. Apply. Apply will then loop until it can successfully copy credentials to each machine. So if we look in here, yes, it's just still creating. Gotcha. Okay. So I think what we do now is we just go, we pixie boot this. Normal start. And I think could not read from the boot medium. Okay, no, that's fine. We just need to we need to start it again, close it, power it off, start again. I need to hit that F12 to get to the pixie boot. Control B. No, I bloody missed it. Damn it. Machine reset. Need Control B. Control B. Okay, iPixie. Now, what's the commands here? There are commands here that we can give it to make it boot. That's bloody taking my focus again. Okay. iPXE boot from server. So definitely, I clearly haven't iPXE command line. I clearly haven't configured things properly here because it's not picking up my server, which should, in theory, be advertising itself as a Pixie server, but that's okay. That's right. I just need to pass this chain. And I think I can figure out here what it's supposed to take. I think what it needs is, yeah, you need to pass it this. Right, so let's go into here and let's, or you can type because I can see what's going on. Chain http // and then that's the address of the server we want to boot from, 8080, and then boot.ipixie. Okay, and then this should kick off. In theory, if it can access that server, which maybe it can't, in theory, we should get some messages in connection timed out. Damn it! Okay, well, this is the portion of the evening where I have to troubleshoot why this isn't actually working. Is that because I have to start... Okay, so Matchbox is definitely working. Does it have DHC... Does it have an IP? Maybe this isn't connected to the network. Yeah. Agreed, Miniron. I'm pretty sure things were running. I'm pretty sure I can... Let's just close this because it's going to steal all my focus. I just need to make sure that this can work. Let's kill this. Curl gp 10.0.21.80.80. Matchbox. So Matchbox is running there. Can we curl that boot.ipixie? Boot.ipixie. Yeah, now look, that worked. Okay, so look, it's definitely accessible from this machine. I just have to figure out the network configuration that's going to make it work from this VirtualBox server. So the network, it's bridged to my Ethernet adapter. Should it in fact be bridged to Docker 0 because that's where the Docker container's running? Let's give that a go. Now if you got real luck here, it would actually find the server that's supposed to be configuring it, but I don't think it's finding it. Connection timed out. Could not read from the boot medium system halted. Is it not getting assigned an IP address? Yeah, look, this is the tricky part, is that I need to figure out how to configure this network so that it can actually connect. Do we want to go to NAT mode? Look, let's just try that and just see if it boots that way. Maybe it'll work. Oh look, it did something. It definitely did something. Okay, so it got... Yeah, okay, so it got the DHCP request, made it through. Now that's a start, I think. What happens if we... Yeah, because I'm not particularly concerned if there's sort of little problems here. Ultimately, I just need to get this working on my actual server. So what happens if I'm going to hit Control B to go to that command line, and I'm going to type that boot command again, and see if it can actually get things from that server. Chain HTTP 10.0.2.1 8080 / boot.ipixie. Can it find that server? That's the question. One would hope so, but possibly not. No, connection timeout again. We probably need to read these. Manual booting. Oh, okay. You actually need to request an IP first. That would help. Okay, and then, now that you're on the network, maybe that's not accessible from outside the network. Maybe that, or not outside the network, but outside the Oh, you have to provide a route. Oh, hang on. Route. Interesting that that's the default gateway. What is that device? 10. It's got 10.0.0.2.15, which number one doesn't seem correct because I'm pretty sure, I don't think it's talking to the right, I don't think it's actually talking to the router. Because that gateway is something on this device, something on this machine. What are we going to do about this? We need to troubleshoot what's going on with this. So, yeah, it makes sense we can hit ourselves. Let's just close this so we don't so it doesn't steal focus. Let me pop open a terminal. Oops, no, we don't want that. Let's do a docker ps to see what's running. Matchbox is running. DNS mask is running. Docker logs agitated Zhukovsky. It is running. It's using my name servers. Etsy/hosts read 3 addresses. DHCP proxy on subnet 10.3.1. Yes, I think that's correct. TFTP root is there. Okay. So this is our DNS mask container, which is supposed to be providing DHCP proxy on a particular subnet. Now, have I messed up the subnet there, and it should actually be providing DHCP proxy across more than just that network, and maybe that's not why it's not working. Maybe. No worries, Coint. Thank you for joining. Appreciate you watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you can come back in the future. I'm glad you thought it was interesting. Appreciate your time, man. Take care. Have a good evening, night, afternoon, whatever it is there. Enjoy. So, maybe we need to stop that container. What's stealing my bloody focus? Let's stop that container. So docker stop agitated Zhukovsky. Right, and then let's start it again with different options. So this is a Mimiron, for your interest. This is something that's provided by these Typhoon guys as like a quick way to get up and running rather. It lets you, is there an example here in Hackett? It basically gives you an easy way of starting up this DNS proxy or this DHCP proxy so that you can serve these iPXE images over the network to something that tries to bootstrap. So I'm using this CoreOS DNS mask config. I'm using this, using Docker. So I'm going to start that up again. I hope it's not a firewall issue. It definitely could be. I'm hoping it's not. And let's change, we've got to change these DHCP ranges. So netmask is like that. My network is 10.0.1.0. Let's start from there. That's not actually a DHCP range though. Anyway, we'll just see how we go with that. Oops, forgot I'm not in the mode right now. And that's at 10.0.2.1, which is the current machines. Okay, let's leave that running. Now let's see if we can boot to it. Let's see. Let's just see what it does by default. Now, why is it trying to TFTP to 10.0.2.4? Doesn't seem like the right, or have I configured that incorrectly somewhere? It's getting that next server from something, so it's not totally crazy. Yeah, now why is it failing to... Look, that's just the wrong server. So look, let's just let's try again. Let's restart. And let's do that. Let's go DHCP, make your DHCP request. Cool. And then let's do that boot chain. Where's that command gone? There it is. That's not it. I've lost it. Bloody hell. Let's leave that up. Let's go back a little bit. Let's go back to installation. Nope, we want to go back to Typhoon. Bare metal. Okay, there's our Typhoon tutorial. Back to the supply. No, back to the Pixie environment. Right, that's the command that we need. So in here we're going to put in chain 10.0.2.1 8080/boot.ipxie. Does the Matchbox server have to be running for this to work? What other commands do we have in here? Maybe we can test connectivity. Connection timed out. What commands do we have? Command reference. Image management, SAM commands, configuration settings, flow control, certificate management. Well, this can do a crap load. Obscure commands. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, this is a cool display eyepiece. What I was hoping was that it would have a command to do some sort of ping, but I don't think it does. Let's try doing a... Is this going to keep running in the background? I think it is. I think I ran into this last time. I have to actually kill that terminal for it to behave. Oh no, actually, sorry, we don't want to do it in here. We want to do it in here. Terraform apply. So let's just let that sit there. Yes, that's a new function. That's a new feature actually that it prompts you as to whether you want to do it or not. So maybe with this running, it'll be able to resolve it. Yeah, so it's running. Oops, where's that? Boot.ipixie. This could actually be one of those situations where it's actually easier to get it running on bare metal over the network because there's no sort of weird address translation going on. But look, I'm going to keep persevering with this. Let's shut down. Oh, let's just close it and shut it down. We don't need to be gentle to it. There's nothing on there. Right, let's have a look at our network settings. I don't think NAT is the correct idea, right? Because I think what's happening is this is getting a separate IP address internally and it's NATing it, and we don't want that because we want it to actually receive DHCP from the main router. So I think, what does host only adapter do? No, that's not it. Bridged adapter. And I think we want to bridge it with that network. I think that's the correct network. Promiscuous mode deny. I don't know what that means. I'm just going to leave that. Let's just try it with this setup, and let's manually control and see if we can get it to make a DHCP request to the correct router. DHCP, what happens now? Can it even get an IP? Okay, it got one. ifconfig, ipconfig. Doesn't like any of those. ifstat, that's what we need. ifstat. Link up. We need route. Oh no, okay, so this is good. Right, this is very, very good. So what you can see is the gateway is correct. That is the address of my router, 10.0.0.1. And you can see also that it has received an IP address in the correct block, which is this 10.3 block, which is the bit of my network that I've got assigned for DHCP, 10.3.1.10. That is good. Okay, so the only question now is I suspect this could be a firewall issue. If we can't boot from my device, then it definitely could be a firewall issue. So let's try again now, booting manually, using that little iPixie. No, where did it? Oh no, it's back here. That's right. Let's try booting using that little chain command. So chain HTTP. So what's supposed to happen is this command is supposed to be served by this server, right? So if everything was working as designed, this would automatically be served by the TFTP server we're running, but it's not. Okay. Did it just pause for a microsecond longer there? I don't think this is working. I don't think it can find it. Connection timed out. Okay, that's okay. I might do a bit of, let's figure out how to fiddle with my firewall config. I suspect my firewall config is not set up properly, so we're gonna have to figure out how bloody IP tables works, but that's okay. IP tables allow port. Oh, my Google Home just decided to listen for some reason. Decided not to chime in though. Okay, common firewall rules. That's what we need. Good old DigitalOcean. Okay. We want IP tables, allow loopback, establish internal to external, block an IP, allow all incoming HTTP. Okay, that's what we want. So sudo, let's do this. Cool. That should hopefully, if I crack a terminal, hopefully this will let us allow incoming connections. So we want to, oops, don't do that. We want to allow incoming connections on port 8080 and port 8081. Let's go 8080. I'm definitely going to accidentally type my password in plain view at some point, but not for the moment. Just hope that I actually realize that I've done it when I do it. And then we need to run this command. I need to start beginning to understand how the hell IP tables works, but for the moment, I'm just going to stick with copy pasting things because I really don't get it. Not that I completely don't get it. I get enough just to be dangerous, but I don't have a very thorough understanding of it. Hopefully, this is all we need, because I've definitely had problems solved in the past where it's like you just IP tables one thing and then it all just works. So fingers crossed. Okay, so our Terraform provider is still running. Let's kick this off again. It might just work. No, okay, it didn't find the next server. That's a problem, and that's probably a problem with our DNS mask configuration on my router. So I can probably fix that at some point. Okay, now we need our chain command. Cool. Where are we going? And I switch to the wrong tab again. That thing. Cool. So chain HTTP 10.0.2.1 1.8080 boot.ipixie. Oh, well, I put a slash in the wrong spot, but other than that, we're good. And I missed a slash at the start. That's what we want. Fingers crossed. That it just works. I think it's going to time out again, though. I think it would have worked if it had already found it. No, connection timed out. Damn it. How can we test whether this port is open or not? We're definitely serving it on the right port, aren't we? My Matchbox server is running. This TFTP server is running. We need to allow ingress to that TFTP port? Maybe we do. Yeah, maybe we do. See this for details. DNS mask. Enable DHCP least given range. We don't want to enable DHCP. What we want to do is we want to caps retain DHCP range. Let's actually set that again to the correct DHCP range. That definitely could be the problem. So let's go stop setting my focus. Docker PS, Docker stop. Good old lucid pane. And then let's copy this command again. What does that Docker? I always forget the Docker commands. Docker rm. Remove a link. Remove one or more containers. No. Docker run reference. That's what we want. Where's that --rm flag? Cleanup. Contains file system persists. Oh, it makes it clean up. Makes debugging. If you say automatically clean up container, remove the file system when the container exits, you can add the --rm flag. Okay, that's kind of what we want. So paste that. Okay, so set our net mask to 0 there. Proxy mode, we want 10.03.1. I think that's the start of the range. I think that'll do it. And then here we're going to set this to our local machine. 10.0.2.1. Go. Okay, started DHCP proxy on that subnet. Oh no, but hang on. If we're not using that, no. The issue is definitely in the Matchbox layer because we're bypassing this by doing that chain boot directly. Yes, right? To chain load to iPixie. We're completely bypassing that. So no, the problem is not in that layer. The fact that when we power this on, it doesn't immediately find that server. I mean, let's see if it finds it now, right? If it finds it now, yeah, no, it didn't find the next server. Okay, that's fine. Close that. I wonder if it's an argument to. So we need to actually look at the Matchbox documentation, right? Because it's failing at the Matchbox bit. My DNS mask server is running, but it's not actually working. But we can skip that by going directly, chain loading directly to that Matchbox server. But it's Matchbox that is not behaving. So we need to have a look at Matchbox service, network boot environments, tutorials, getting started with Matchbox. So I've installed this, the network. Yep, that's fine. We need to actually set this up though. I've installed it. Installing on container Linux under the distros. The Kubernetes service on a generic Linux binary. You're almost done? As in you're almost done, Miron, you're almost done your essay, or I'm almost done? I hope I'm almost done. I hope you're almost done too. That would be lovely. Okay. So here's... Okay, no, that's alright. Start Matchbox. Your essay. Okay, well that's good to hear. I'm glad to hear that. Hopefully I'm almost done whatever I'm doing here as well. Right, so add your port choices in the provisioners firewall so that clients can access the service. That's what I want to do, but that's what I thought I did. Firewall D. Do I have Firewall D installed? I don't know if I do. This is hung again. That's fine. I can just run in the background. It's not doing any harm. I mean, it's not serving CFTP requests to the network, but I guess that's not necessarily the end of the world. Can I just install Firewall D? Sudo pack -s Firewall D. Choked at my password. Oh, it's already installed. Alright. Can we just run this? Run random commands. Invalid zone. Zone equals home. Firewall D set up zones. Never used Firewall D, but that's okay. Installing and managing. Check the firewall state. Oh, is it even running? It might not be. I don't think I could get it running last time. I tried to do this. Oh, it's running. Okay, alright, cool. No worries. Configuring. Configuration sets. Zone equals public. That could work. Zone equals public. Or do we want firewall zones? Get default zone. I see. Dash get default zone. Public. Okay, let's just add it to that zone. I don't really need to do different zones because this machine lives in my home. So it's not going to be moving around much. And I stuffed up the zone name. So public. Hey, that seems pretty good. 8081. Now let's try our network boot again. Maybe this will have done it. Maybe. we still got to use our manual Pixie boot. So we have to go DHCP. I think I remember the command now. Chain HTTP. Oops. HTTP 10.0.21 8080 ipixie.boot. Is Terraform still running? Yeah, Terraform's still going. Probably has a timeout, but the timeout hasn't been reached yet. I think it's still going to time it. Connection timed out. How frustrating. I wonder if I can... That's definitely traversable. IFStat. Socket is not connected. That doesn't seem good. ifconfig. Maybe we need to tweak our settings again. iPixie command line. Command line for iPixie commands. So ifstat. Display routing table. Route. Yeah, that's fine. IPstat. IFstat. Socket is not connected. Link is up. Yeah. IF open. IF open. IF close. IF open. We want to have open interfaces. That sounds good. What can we do here to try and troubleshoot this issue? Because the Matchbox server is definitely running, right? Like, it definitely works. So we can't access it from this machine. I wonder why. I wonder why. So we're using a bridged... What if we just chain boot off the local host? Maybe that's why. Maybe, oh no, but it's got its own IP address. Look, let's try it though. Chain HTTP 10.0.0.0 8080 ipixie.boot. That's the local host. I don't think that's going to work because it's not running on the local host, it's running on a remote host. Just has to... That net mask is correct. Yeah, it's fine with that being a net mask. Doesn't remember many commands. Chain. What's stuffing up my... Hang on, I'm not stuffing up my IP address, am I? If I am, it's going to be so bloody embarrassing. No, yeah, 10.0.21. We just need to bridge the... We just need to connect these networks up. That's the only issue that is going on here. It's the only issue. Let's try closing it, power it off. We'll change those network settings again because I just want to get this to boot just to see if it works. Internal network. No, we want NAT. We don't need to set up port forwarding, do we? Let's start it up as a NAT device. See what happens when we actually try and DHCP boot it. DHCP. What IP does it get? Route. Right, that's some internal route. So what happens if we go chain HTTP 10.0? I'm assuming that is it ipixie.boot or is it boot.ipixie? Oh, I've lost my bloody place again. No, that's not where it is. I can't remember what the... let's see. Typhoon bare metal. Yeah. Boot.ipixie. Okay. Oh, bam! Got it. There we go. Okay. We're up and running. I suspect it's going to be a lot easier to make this work over the network when I've actually got a real device that's just connected to the network and I don't have to mess around with any of this crap. And if it's not, fine, I'll sort it out in my own time. You know, I have endless patience with fiddling with bloody network config. I'll figure it out. But hey, we're up and running. So you can see it's grabbing a... Okay, could not select exec format error. Look, hey, we're getting closer. Could not boot, could not boot. Okay, but what we can see here is that it's very clearly obtained something over the network. It's obtained like a boot image over the network. We just need to figure out why it doesn't like that, but we're getting there. We're getting there. There's even links to these errors. That's bloody helpful. So let's go to, what is it? ipixie.org. It's 2E008001. So let's close that. ipixie.org/20008001. 20EE 8001. I think that's it. 2E00. 2E008001. Exec format error. General advice, try using the latest version of iPixie. You can contact the... Okay, I did see, so I'm going to keep streaming. I was planning on stopping basically now, but I'm going to keep going because I'm excited. And frankly, I'm just going to work on this anyway, so I might as well just keep streaming a little longer, see how far we can get. I'm having fun. I hope you guys are having fun. Yeah, I'm going to keep going. So I did notice that there was a dude on YouTube, and actually let me see if I can find... I'll see if I can find and link his video later on somewhere. He was doing the same stuff, and he actually gave a talk like 3 days. Thanks, Mimaron. I'm rooting for myself as well. I hope it works. He gave a talk a few days ago about a very similar setup, and so he was actually using an iPixie image. Now, what version of iPixie do we have? Because that will determine whether we need to update or not. If it's a very, I don't know, it's 1.0.0. That's kind of the latest, maybe. Latest version of iPixie. What is the latest version? Chain loading, embedding scripts, blah, 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 large ROM. What is the latest version? Downloads. Well, I guess we can find it here. There is an ISO version, right? So if there's a newer version, maybe we'll use that one. It wants to download it. What version is it? Let's just iPixie version. Yeah, iPixie 1.0.0 plus, whatever that means. Okay, that's fine. Let's look in the Typhoon.Matchbox. iPixie. What error did it give us? We don't want that. Could not boot exec format error. Could not boot exec format error. Unless there's any errors here. No, nothing there. Still creating. It'll time out eventually. Let's actually just kill that and let's try again. Just so it doesn't time out in the middle of doing something, which would be exceedingly frustrating. Okay, here we go. What happened? How to reproduce. Oh, yes. So you need a specific ROM. VirtualBox extension pack and using an Intel card. Okay, so it's not a bug with me, it's a bug with VirtualBox. So as I said, some of these issues we're not going to run into when we actually have the real hardware. Yeah, okay, so VirtualBox extension pack. Linux. Or can we just, maybe I already have that installed. Let's kill this. And let's see if we can change the type of the network device. Settings, network, advanced. Ah, yes. Interesting. Oh, I've got it set to the desktop one. We need the server one. Let's just give that a go. Let's just see what happens. Let's just see what happens. Right, so we want DHCP to set up the network, and then we want to go chain HTTP / oops 10.0.2.2 8080 boot.iPXE. Cool, so it's working again. So this is all happening over HTTP, so it's a little, well, it's got to pull this image down, which is probably reasonably large. So I guess we could check how big it is, but I'm fine with that for the moment. So yeah, it's gonna come down. Ooh, I'm doing a bit of a stretch. I forgot that you guys can see me now. Mimiron, this is the first video I've had a webcam for. A friend of mine, good old Jim, I mentioned him many times in relation to this webcam, was borrowing it, and he had it. Also, fidget spinner. I know people fucking hate fidget spinners. I get it. I totally get it. But this one is sexy as hell. It's made out of like machined aluminium. It cost me like 90 bucks. Fidget spinner is usually pretty lame, but this one is just really nice. I don't really use it very often. It just sits in my desk at home, but this one is like gorgeous. Like, let me make sure you can see. I'll pull up a little preview of what I can see. It's really nice. It was made by a Melburnian guy in conjunction with Massdrop. It's gorgeous. So yeah, fidget spinners. Okay, exec format error. Again, okay, maybe let's take a bit more of a, there were more suggestions here. So let's just keep going through this and see what the issue is. So the extension pack is a downgrade. Close out, it's a driver issue. Tectonic Sandbox. Oh, interesting. Look, I do know that the dude that I was watching was using a different ROM. Like he was using like an ISO, like an iPXE ISO, right, to boot things. So maybe what I'll do is I'll do that. I'll just download this iPXE ISO, and we'll boot from that, and we'll see if that helps at all. But it's good to know, and we'll save it in this Matchbox folder because why not? It's good to know that it's not like some horrible problem with my system or my setup, and that hopefully the actual bare metal will be able to be booted just fine. So let's set this in the storage. We're going to have to change this to boot from optical. Yep, I'm fine with that. And then we're going to have to go, okay, and then I probably do need to exit out settings there. Storage, let's add a optical drive, choose disk. Yeah, cool, and that goes in my, not in there, it goes in home. And then, where do we put it? Under Matchbox. That one. Cool. So now it's going to actually boot from an optical drive, and then it's going to boot into iPXE, and then we should have a command line. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Oh, so it looks like it's a different build. I could be wrong about that. But I guess we'll find out. Cool, and then so we want to go chain HTTP 10.2.10.0.2.2 8080 boot.iPXE. Cool, it's grabbing it again, so let's hope this is a little more amenable. So it's what the issue is here is it's that it seems as if different iPXE environments or different builds of iPXE have different feature support, and it seems like the format of this image that we're pulling from Matchbox is not compatible with whatever version of iPixie shipped with VirtualBox. So hopefully this one is more compatible, considering it seems to be a different build, maybe slightly newer. Yes, off we go. Okay, so it's pulled down this VMZ Linux file, which I think is like a, I think that's a kernel. I don't know. This is where my knowledge of like early stage boot of Linux systems really breaks down. But I think that's maybe a kernel image, and now it's pulling something else. It's a little slow. It's pulling over HTTP. Yeah, interesting. I might just take a break and go to the bathroom for a second. I'll be back in a second. I'll leave this running because there's stuff happening. I'll just switch off my webcam. Be back in a couple of seconds, guys. Alright, I'm back. So, still trying to pull down that image. But look, this should give you a bit of an idea of like, part of the benefit of this is that, yeah, it's not particularly, I mean, it takes time when we're doing it in real time, but in terms of, imagine that you've just booted up a server and this is provisioning it, it's not taking that long. It's not like it's taking hours. Like, the manual provisioning would take a bloody long time. I think this is probably far preferable to that. So yeah, up it goes. Getting there. Yeah. Sorry. Cool. Almost there. So yeah, I don't really know what the process is now. I think it just keeps going through this. So I think what's happening is it's going to pull down this image. It's probably going to pull down some config at some point, and then it's going to start bootstrapping itself. And so if this works, we should eventually get a fully running worker, or sorry, container Linux controller. Yeah, I guess we'll see if I haven't stuffed up any of that hostname stuff. Here at its booting, unpacking its init ramfs. Did I give this a hard drive? If I didn't, it's going to be very difficult for this to work. It's doing something. It's trying to change that network configuration. Link becomes ready. Well, it says the link is up. Don't know what it's doing in the background. it doesn't look like it's contacted this server at all. In fact, we may find that they have to reconfigure things if it can't really find this server again. Yeah, the Matchbox server is going to be wrong. It's not going to be able to communicate with the Matchbox server. That's okay. Well, it's doing something. Look at that. Huh. It's doing something. It's definitely doing something. Let's go back to our IaC, or for our documentation here, on how to set up, where were we? We wanted Typhoon. Now the number of times I've gone to this, lost this config and then gone back to it. Huh. Okay. So apply, power them on, and then machines will network boot, install container Linux to disk, reboot into the disk install, and provision themselves controls or workers. Watch the SOL console of a machine to spot any misconfiguration. I don't know what that means. It's doing something though. Oh, no, hang on. Stuff's going on. I think I can probably... I probably can log in if I really want to, but it's doing something. Did I not... hang on. Did I provision this with storage? If I didn't, it's going to make it very difficult for anything to install. No, I don't think I actually added a hard drive. Interesting. I'm kind of tempted to... slightly tempted to cut the stream here just because it seems like the process from now on is going to be a lot of just like shut it down, try again, we're going to have to wait a couple of minutes for it to boot up again, and then go from there, which is going to be frustrating. So perhaps we should call it there. Look, let's try one more time. I don't think this is doing anything, and I think the fact that I didn't add a do I have to log in to make it work? You wouldn't think so, because if you do, then that kind of defeats the whole purpose of having a headless install. I think it's errored out and it can't find a hard drive. All right, look, let's hang on. Let's kill this. Let me actually stick a hard disk on there, and let me remove that other storage device because we don't really need that. So what we do is and we'll also want to configure it so that it's hard disk first and then optical, right? Because that way, then it'll boot to the, let's add storage, add a SATA controller, a disk. Yeah, that'll go for dynamically sized. IaC test disk. Let's give it 20 gig, 15. Yeah, 20. Cool, that should be fine. Okay, cool. So now, when we start this, it should boot off our Pixie disk again, which is what we want. And then we want to go to EXP, and then we want to boot it. I wish we could speed this up somehow, that would be really helpful. Boot 10.0.22 P80 boot.ipixie. Okay, maybe this time it's going to work, and it's actually going to boot properly. That would be lovely. Yes. Cool. Look, I'm very happy that it's actually working properly. It would be very frustrating if it didn't work at all. So, yeah. So let's getting the VMZ Linux image. Unfortunately, this is a really slow step. That's why I'm pretty much. I think. Look, if I run into, I'll keep going with this one until I hit an image. Until I hit a problem, and then I might have to start again. I wonder. I think the other thing that I sort of missed here is also that pretty sure if you don't have iPXE installed, because I think iPXE is pretty new, if your network card doesn't really support iPXE, or whatever bit of hardware is actually serving iPXE, I'm not sure what it is necessarily, maybe it's the BIOS or something like that, you can also chain load into iPXE. So I think what happens is if you just got regular Pixie, which I think is like the first version of iPXE, or the predecessor to iPXE, there's a special command. Thanks, mate. I appreciate you watching Mimiron. Glad you enjoyed it. Tune in the future. I'll possibly be streaming on Saturday and Sunday mornings, my time again. Take care. Good luck with the essay. Hope it went well. So yeah, if you've got the predecessor to iPXE, which is just regular Pixie, I think you can bootstrap into iPXE using a similar thing. I think you just you just do a different path for that boot, or that, oh, I did boot instead of chain. Probably didn't need to do that. Maybe they're interchangeable. But yeah, I think you need to chain into a different thing, and then that'll chain you into iPXE. So I suspect that's what I'll have to do with my server, because my server is probably about 10 years old, the one that I bought. So I guess we'll find out, but I suspect that's what I'm going to have to do, which is fine. It doesn't seem to be a big deal. Cool. So yeah, as I said, I think after I give this one a go, I'll probably sign off for the day. But, well, when I say give it a go, I mean when this more than likely doesn't work, yeah, I'll sign off. But yeah, because otherwise I think it's just going to be, look, I've been going for 3 hours, I'm getting reasonably tired as well, but I also don't want to just have to keep, you know, stopping and waiting for minutes while it transfers this Linux image. I'd much rather do that in my own time when there's not people watching. I'm not wasting people's time. So yeah, but look, overall pretty fun stream, I think. Yeah, unfortunately I didn't get to do quite as much Terraform as I was expecting. I was expecting to have to write a bit of Terraform and write some of those variable interpolations into that ignition template, but that's okay. And then yeah, I think next stream I'm going to go back to the normally scheduled stuff, which is my sort of like React and TypeScript side project. So I'll be doing more development on that. That'll probably be some time during the week, this coming week, during the evening at some point. Getting there, 75%. Yeah, I'm hoping it's sort of just easy on my actual real hardware, or that it all just sort of works nice. I need to figure out the DHCP proxy stuff. I think you need to explicitly, well, the reading that I saw of it was that the DHCP configuration they've got will just sit on the network and it'll listen for DHCP requests, and when it hears them, it'll say, I don't have an IP for you, but I do have TFTP configuration. But perhaps that's not how it works, or perhaps when it finds the first device on the network that's really to serve at an IP, it just takes that configuration. Not quite sure why it's not working, because it should be. But anyway, we'll sort that out. Okay, and it's going to boot up again. Cool. Unpacking that in at Ramifest. You know, wait till the link to become ready. This seems to take about another 60 seconds, but that's okay. Yeah. Yeah, been a fun little stream learning about this stuff. Hopefully at least informative. I mean, the fact that this stuff even exists is really fascinating. I didn't even realize it existed before, you know, a few days ago when I started researching it, when I sort of really got, actually, so Monday of this week that we're still on the last day of, I had dinner with some friends, and one of my friends was saying that he's really loved having a server at home, and he has a similar an HP ProLiant, which is what I've got sitting in the other room that I'm going to set up. And he sort of like re-spurred my interest in getting it. I kind of decided, oh, maybe I won't do it at the moment. Maybe I can't be bothered. But yeah, he really inspired me to pick it up again, and I just got really lucky and ended up finding one pretty easily on the web. 250 bucks, not too bad at all for 12 gig of RAM and a Xeon processor that's pretty beefy, and upgradable to even more. So yeah, fingers crossed. Well, I'm sure it'll work, but yeah, hopefully it's reasonably easy. And this time, well, when I next stream, I'm gonna have that Kubernetes server set up, which is gonna be pretty cool. So I don't know what's going on here. I don't know whether I don't think I need to log in here. It's supposed to be a headless setup. Should it be just Oh, I wonder if it's just supposed to reboot. No, it should just reboot itself. Let's just Google this. Matchbox Typhoon install local host prompt. So yeah, we've seen all of this. This is just the markdown version of. So wait for the boot queue. So chassis boot dev pxe power on. Where is the install container Linux to disk bit? I haven't seen that yet. crng init done. Typhoon watch install. No, that's not it. There's clearly some product named Typhoon. PXE Typhoon install. Terraform for bare metal with Matchbox. That's what we want. No, this is just the same bloody thing. Okay. I mean, maybe we just wait. Maybe we just need to wait a while. Maybe it's doing all stuff in the background. Perhaps. Look, if that's the case, I might just call it here. I'm just going to let that run in the background and see if it does anything. It might well do. I mean, this stuff it's certainly possible that this stuff takes a little while. But yeah, so I might call it there. Thank you very much, guys, for watching. I really appreciate your time. Coint, Mimiron, the Z-Man back in the day, Mr. Pope. Really appreciate you guys watching. I don't think any of them are watching now, but appreciate you watching. I hope it was interesting. Hope I introduced you to some new sort of infrastructure as code type things. Again, can I keep streaming? Still not sure about the time. I might be changing the time up. I don't know if this morning time slots really worked that well for me. I'm starting to think that maybe just evenings Australia time is when I'll be streaming. But you know, I'm going to play around with it. Much more fun stuff to come. I mentioned it yesterday on the stream towards the end, but I'm going to be doing a redo of my thesis, my honors thesis from 5 or 6 years ago. Was in mathematics, but there was a bit of software involved. So I'm going to actually redo that, revisit the code. If I can find the code, oh my god, we're going to see how absolutely awful it was. But I don't think I have the code anymore. So we're just going to rewrite that from scratch. That's a plan for this stream. I'm going to rewrite my website, which is going to be really cool. It's going to use a sort of tiling layout that's going to grab data from different sources and sort of display it dynamically. More on my React TypeScript LightPet simulator project. There's going to be Golang, there's going to be GraphQL, there's going to be some Elixir, all sorts of fun stuff. So thank you again for joining me. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate you giving me your time, giving up your time on, I guess it'll be Saturday night in the US, Sunday morning in Australia. Hope you have a lovely rest of the evening or day, and I will catch you really soon. Thanks, guys. Bye.